right. Calling to order the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting for December 22nd, 2021. Are we good to roll? Are we rolling? All right. All right, let's start with the roll call. And it does look like Santa Claus is here, so that's good.
I can put my hat on as well.
Yeah, well, we'll see if Santa Claus is in a good mood.
Sounds good. All right. Do I have a roll call?
All right, thank you, commissioners. I'll go ahead and take roll call. I'll start with Chair Grumbine.
Present.
Vice Chair House.
I am here.
Commissioner Dorden.
Here.
Commissioner Drury.
Here.
Commissioner Edmonds. Here. Commissioner Lundvik.
Yes, here.
Commissioner Mahan. Commissioner Mahan is present, but he's working out some audio issues at the moment. Commissioner Manuel.
Here.
And Commissioner Uli.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum. Thank you.
All right, great. Go on to, sorry. Technical things here. Okay. So let's go on to item A of general business. Public comment. Any member of the public may address the commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject within its jurisdiction that is not scheduled on this agenda for public discussion. And so if you would like to make a public comment at this time that's not on the agenda, please raise your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon, and then unmute yourself by clicking on the unmute button as the instructions show, and then you'll have 2 minutes to comment.
Yes, thank you, Chair Grumbine. If any member of the public would like to speak on general public comment, please click on the raise your hand icon and I will call on you. So at this time, I don't see any hands raised and we did not receive any general written correspondence. So I'll turn it over back to you, Chair Grumbine.
Chair Grumbine, I think you're muted.
You are correct, because I was well into, I got through all items B, C, D, E, so we're done. And I can go on to the next. Okay, item B, approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting December 8th, 2021.
Move to approve the
Motion?
minutes.
All right, motion by Santa, second.
I'll second it.
All right, Vice Chair House, and any edits,
Not for me.
discussion. Anyone going once, going twice? All right, then let's have a roll call vote on the minutes.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Lenvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan. All right, he put a thumbs up, so that signals an approval for the record. Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Yes.
Vice Chair House, Vice Chair House.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Thank you, and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, we're on to item C, approval of the consent calendar of December 22nd, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Manuel, second by Commissioner Edmonds. And under discussion and summary and under discussion.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. The only item on today's consent agenda was 5 Rosemary Lane. And the motion was for project design approval as submitted with the project compatibility findings and hillside design and slope lot findings and minor alteration findings made. That was it. And Commissioners Mahan and Manuel reviewed.
Great. So unless there's any other additional comment, we can go to vote, but Commissioner Mahan or Manuel? All's good at Rosemary Lane? All right, let's go to vote, roll call vote on the
All right.
consent calendar.
Yes, thank you, Chair Grumbine. I'll start with Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Lenvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan. All right, Commissioner Mahan has signaled a thumbs up for the record. Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we are on to item D, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, and future agenda items and appeals. do we have any announcements? Not everyone. And to staff, are there any staff announcements?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I don't have any announcements for this meeting, other than happy last meeting of 2021.
Indeed.
Mhm.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Drury.
in lieu of it perhaps being a long meeting, I have to check out at 5:45.
Okay. All right. Well,
Thank
we'll
you.
hopefully have it wrapped up by then.
Yep.
All right. And see, okay, and then are there any subcommittee? We'll go on to item E, subcommittee reports.
Oh,
Any
Commissioner,
subcommittee. Okay. Oh, Ms. Hernandez. Okay, I wasn't sure if you were on, so I was stalling. Okay.
this is
So
the time.
go ahead. Okay. So we would also like to recognize that this being the last meeting of the year, and also the last meeting for Commissioner Edmonds and Commissioner Mahan. We do have a resolution of recognition that I would like to read in the record, and then will be sent to both of the commissioners because we can't present it to you in person. So, we'll start with Commissioner Edmonds. So this is a resolution of recognition of Wendy Edmonds, public at large. Whereas Wendy Edmonds spent years making contributions to Santa Barbara, and whereas Wendy Edmonds served with talent, dedication, and knowledge in the City of Santa Barbara Historic Landmarks Commission since 2018, and whereas Wendy Edmonds served all the pier and altar rail walls in the Riviera, bringing awareness of their importance to the streetscape of Santa Barbara. Whereas Wendy Edmonds consistently showed her care for the beauty of the city by applying quality design standards to the treasured historic resources, architecture, and landscape of Santa Barbara. Now, therefore, be it resolved that official recognition on behalf of the City of Santa Barbara Historic Landmarks Commission is given to Wendy Edmonds for her outstanding contribution to our community and the City of Santa Barbara. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand to be affixed this day, December 22nd, 2021. I'm Anthony Grumbine, chairperson.
Here, here.
Absolutely.
Bravo.
All right, nice.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. All right. And then I also have a resolution for Commissioner Mahan. And I don't know if your audio is still not working, Commissioner Mahan, but we'll see about getting that resolved as well afterwards. But all right. So this is a resolution of recognition of William Mahan, FAIA architect. Whereas William Mahan spent years making contributions to Santa Barbara as an architect, and whereas William Mahan served with talent, dedication, and knowledge on the City of Santa Barbara Historic Landmarks Commission since 2014, and whereas William Mahan wrote a comparative analysis of 3-story buildings for downtown Santa Barbara with respect to size, bulk, and scale, whereas William Mahan consistently showed his care for the beauty of the city by applying quality design standards to the treasured historic resources, buildings, and landscape of Santa Barbara, and I would add, and poetry. Now, therefore, be it resolved that official recognition on behalf of the City of Santa Barbara Historic Landmarks Commission is given to William Mahan, FAIA architect, for his outstanding contribution to our community and the City of Santa Barbara. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand to be affixed this day, December 22nd, 2021. Anthony Grumbine, chairperson.
Here, here.
Bravo.
All right.
Bravo indeed.
Thank you both for all of your hard work, and especially I'd add with all the virtual meetings, which I think are worth 2 or 3 times what a regular meeting is in terms of, years off your life. So thank you for all of your help, especially during this time. All right. Now we'll move on to subcommittee reports. Were there any subcommittee reports to be had?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Drury.
I wasn't here for the last meeting, as you know. I wondered if Commissioner House had given you any sort of a preamble to the meeting we had for the Lot 3 Paseo, the last meeting.
I think you touched on it a touch. There was something.
I think I gave a summary of who was there.
Oh, okay.
Our discussion was, I'm pretty sure. I
Okay,
did.
good. All right, thank you.
Mhm,
You said that you said close all paseos in the city.
exactly.
Well, that was because of Commissioner Lenvick.
Okay.
What
any other-
really was revealed to us, Mr. Drury, was that there's no chance that that paseo that is there now will exist once the Public Works Department gets through with their project.
Okay.
That's
Has there been anything since that meeting on that subcommittee, just to be clear?
No, not in terms of an announcement of the next date it'll come to HLC.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Drury.
Yeah, I think we made it very clear, both Commissioner House and I and Bob Cunningham, who was I think he's the landscape architect for the
Landscape
place.
architect.
Very, very clear that we do not want a stop and start. We want both the closure of the old Paseo, which is in sad repair, and really the death knell was that god awful transmission or transformer box
Mhm.
in the middle of the Paseo. But whatever goes on there has to be met at the same time with the construction of the new Paseo, where the entrance is to the parking lot off of Figueroa Street. We made that very plain to them, and they said that they would come back to us, of course, and meaning the HLC, and we hope that this is funded properly, because otherwise it will not fly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other subcommittee reports? All right.
The State,
Charge-
the State Street,
Yes, Commissioner Lenvick.
yeah, the State Street Advisory Committee has not met since our last meeting, so there's been no change in that, and we won't be meeting until sometime in January. I forget what the date is.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that update. Any other subcommittee reports before we move on? Okay. In that case, let's move on to our item number 101 Garden Street Archaeology Report. This project consists of a new 250-room, 231,000 square foot hotel located on a 4.5-acre site at the southwest corner of Garden and East Yananali in El Pueblo Viejo Landmark District. The project site is Area A of the Carpio Plaza Specific Plan, SP2. The hotel would consist of 119 standard guest rooms and 131 extended stay guest rooms. Amenities for the hotel guests would include restaurants, bar, lounge, library, media salons, meeting rooms, fitness rooms, market, laundry rooms, a pool, and a roof deck with trellis. A total of 267 parking spaces would be provided, 39 surface and 228 in an underground parking garage. All existing structures and uses on the site would be removed. The project includes a voluntary lot merger of the 6 underlying legal lots. This is requesting acceptance of the Phase 1 Archaeological Resources Report prepared by Heather McDevitt of Dudek. Dr. Glassow reviewed the report and agrees with its conclusions and recommendations. Specifically, that a qualified archaeologist should monitor the earth-moving activities associated with the project. Right. With that, do we have anyone from the Dudek team or archaeologists?
Chair
Someone
Grumby,
that likes. Yep. Oh, Commissioner Emanuel.
I should recuse myself for conflict of interest.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Letting us know. Yes, Commissioner Jordan.
Where is this report? I could not find it on the website.
Commissioner
yeah,
Jordan
go.
and Mr. Chair, the report would have been on the HLC members only page, not on the HLC website, since it's a confidential.
Right, but it's not, is it on? I could not find it.
Did anybody else?
It was,
It's there, and
I found it.
now. It's there. I'm looking at it right now on my iPad.
I'm sorry about that, Commissioner Jordan. If you weren't able to review it, then it would be best to, you can ask questions, but it would be best to abstain from voting on it.
I will abstain.
And I can email you a copy for your review if you like. All right. I don't see anybody from the DUDEC team. I did confirm that one of the members was possibly going to be here, but mainly the main point was that Dr. Glassow reviewed it and agrees with the conclusions and recommendations, specifically that a qualified archaeologist should monitor any earth moving activities. And that should be a condition if you accept the report in the motion.
Okay. And so if there is no one from the archaeology team, were there any questions about it from the commissioners? We'll start with that, if there was any questions. And then we'll actually go to public, well, there isn't any presentation summary. So let's go to public comment on it, and then we'll come back to the commission. So, so if we can go to public comment on this item. There you go. All right. So any member of the public wishing to comment on the archaeology report, please raise your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon as shown on the screen. And then you'll have to also unmute yourself when you're called on by clicking on the unmute button. And you'll have 2 minutes to speak on this item.
Yes, thank you, Chair Grumbine. So at this time, I see several members of the public in attendance. If you would like to speak on item 1, please click the raise your hand icon and I will call on you. All right, so at the moment, I don't see any hands raised for this item and we did not receive any written correspondence. So I'll turn it over back to you, Chair Grumbine.
All right, thank you. Okay, so with that, we'll close public comment. Come back to the commission to see if there were any questions about the report or if someone's comfortable making a motion.
I'd move approval of the report as submitted.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Uli, second by Commissioner Edmonds. Under discussion, any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Drury?
and do we need to include in the motion Dr. Glassow's recommendation?
I don't believe.
I think if we accept the report, then that is he agreed with the conclusion of the report, which was that they had to have archaeology monitoring.
Thank you.
So.
Mr. Chair,
okay.
Commissioners, just to
Yes,
clarify,
Hamilton.
your motion should include just a sentence about agreeing with that specific recommendation so that it's part of the project.
So if we approve the report as it's written and it has the recommendation in the report, why do we have to repeat it?
That's a good question, and maybe that's one that we need to look into further as far as training goes. But
because we didn't add anything to the report, we're just taking it as it was submitted and written.
Right. Okay.
But
yeah,
I agree with the conclusion, just so that we double cross the T and double dot the I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for clarity, I'll just read the last sentence, which it says it is recommended that a city qualified archaeologist monitor all ground disturbing activities until it can be determined that ground disturbance activities have reached a depth below which cultural material is expected to exist. For the record. So triple cross the T and triple dot the I. Okay. Okay. So with that, are we all good on the properness of the motion and that, Mr. Hamilton? we good to go and vote?
Mr. Chair, that sounds good.
All right. So with that, why don't we have a roll call vote?
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan. All right, Commissioner Mahan's thumbs up signals an approval for the record. Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Abstain.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so now we are on to item 2. Sorry, I think it's item 2. Yep. All right. 8 Ocean View Avenue Archaeology Report, the proposal to demolish an existing single-family residence, garage, storage building, and shed, and construct 7 dwelling units in 5 buildings. The project includes removal of 1 fruit tree and 3 palm trees, and the construction of 14 uncovered parking spaces, 7 bike lockers, a trash enclosure, and 8 freestanding pergolas. Staff hearing officer review of a coastal development permit is requested. This is requesting acceptance of the Phase 1 Archaeological Resources Report prepared by David Stone of Stone Archaeological Consulting. Dr. Glasgow reviewed the report and agrees with its conclusions and recommendations.
And a partridge and a pear tree, by the way, just added. To
You know, I thought that. I thought that line. Yep. All right. Okay. So, do we have anyone from the Mr. Stone's consulting team?
Chair Grumbine and Commissioners, I don't see Mr. Stone in the attendees list here, unfortunately. So if you have any questions, I can try to field them.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so if there isn't anything to present, why don't we go to public comment now for the archaeology report. So any member of the public wishing to comment on this item, please click on the raise hand icon, and then you'll have to unmute yourself by clicking on the unmute button, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair Grumbine and Commissioners. So at this time, there are several members of the public in attendance. If you would like to speak on this item, please click the raise your hand icon and I will call on you. So at this time, I don't see any hands raised and we did not receive written correspondence. So I'll turn it over back to you, Mr. Grumbine.
Okay, thank you. All right, so back to the commission. Were there any questions on the report?
Make a motion to approve the report as written with its conclusions.
Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Uli, second by Vice Chair House. Under discussion, is there any discussion? All right, let's have a roll call vote.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Lundvik. Commissioner Lundvik.
You're muted, sir.
All right, he signaled a thumbs up, so that's an approval for the record. Commissioner Mahan. Commissioner Mahan also signaled a thumbs up, so that will count as an approval for the record. Commissioner Uli.
Yes.
Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Abstain.
Commissioner Drury.
Yes.
Commissioner Edmonds.
Yes.
And Chair Grumbine.
Yes, although
All right.
I was tempted to give it a thumbs up, so it would have 3 thumbs up. So this is
All
just a
right.
2 thumbs up report.
I'm glad you resisted that idea. Thank you.
I had the same thought.
All right. So Skaya, have you, did you want to say anything else before we go on? Was that all good?
No, that's all good. Thank you.
Okay, great. On to item 3, and did want to, let's see, oh, we're going to be continue to move on quickly with these items because we do have a could be potentially fairly long agenda here. So item 3, 1125 Anacapa Street. This is review after final approval. This is revised project description. Proposal to add a new SCE transformer to be located on the city parking lot number 7 parcel adjacent to the Lara Cotta Plaza Art Museum and the library. Additional work includes realignment of an existing walkway, new plantings, and a new guardrail to an existing retaining wall adjacent to Lara Cotta. Review after final is requested to allow the transformer paint color to remain the standard green color instead of applying the approved decorative paint treatment, and to install new landscape screening around the transformer. Right. Commissioner Emanuel?
Sorry, I've got a few recusals today. I have a conflict of interest with the owner.
Okay, thank you for letting us know. Any other announcements before we continue on? All right, we'll go to the applicants in a second, but to Mr. Hamilton, were there any it wouldn't be applicable to have to read any of the previous motion or anything else, correct? This is just a review after final and it's a change, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. I do have the minutes from the final approval and also the old plans available if you want to look at them. But since this is a review after final, we don't need to review those if you don't think they're necessary.
Mr. Chair,
Okay. Vice Chair House?
I would think it'd be valuable to get at least a summary of whatever discussion previously occurred about this transformer and painting it, and what the discussion was around that, the justification for it at the time, because I think that could inform this request for a change.
Sure.
Chair,
Sounds
I
good.
agree with that.
All right. Can we zoom into just the any transformer comments? Or comments? It's not that long, so we can just read through them all.
And of course, there are multiple reviews, so those opinions on the transformer could have been in any one of those reviews, I suppose.
So now we're going back like 5 years.
Could be.
Well, let's start with what we had from last time on the transformer and see if how people are feeling about that.
Yeah. And maybe the applicant can shed some light as well.
Yeah, that sounds good. And we might have to come back to more stuff afterwards. So, okay. So the motion was for project design and final approval as submitted with the comment and condition. Appreciation was expressed for the applicant's work in pursuing a direction that provides an acceptable solution to alleviate the commission's concerns. 2, select the plant size from the maximum biomass per planter size. The motion was by Lavoie. The second was by Mahan. 610. Suiting opposed as he does not agree with the locations. Arias and Winnick were absent. The motion carried. That is a very long time ago.
Yeah, it was 7 years ago. So, and it's not even the current project. This was the previous architect.
Yeah, and is there anything else that's was there anything else that was more relevant from sooner?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair as well, when you're free.
Yes, Commissioner Drury, then Commissioner Lenvik.
Yeah, I was on the commission at that time, and it was I know that the Campbells, the architects of the project, were, very pleased with the fact that we came to a solution to make that transformer box more decorative. Otherwise, it's going to look like, and it does now look like, the one that's in the middle of Paseo in Lot 3. And so we approved the landscape plan, and we approved the Yeah, I think it was going to be some sort of a tile, like a Spanish tile idea. I don't quite remember. It's been 6 years is a
Yeah.
long time.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we, Commissioner Lemus, why don't you go ahead and go, then I'll add my comment. Go ahead.
When I go back and look at the cover sheet of these drawings, if you can move back, Mr. Hamilton, to the cover sheet.
And Commissioner Lenvik, just to clarify, these are the drawings that were approved back in 2015.
I see. I'm trying to understand
well, what I'm wondering is whether we'll shed more light on it and be able to get into more in discussion time when we're and actually look at
zoom in on that plan right there, Mr. Hamilton. Can you do that? Zoom further. Where do I see the transformer on this plan?
It's going to be in this area here.
Where?
This area here. There's a better drawing of it on a different page.
Well, I'm curious to know what was reviewed originally, and I don't know that the balance of the drawings reflect what was originally seen. I see a transformer here, but I don't know that that's the original plan. And I look back at the cover sheet description plan and I see something different. And I'm concerned that we don't have these photos indicate a transformer is there. So a transformer has been placed there, as I understand it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. A transformer has been placed there, and now they're asking for approval on it. Is that correct?
Commissioner Lenvik, yes, I believe that is correct. This plan is what was approved in 2015. You can see the location of the transformer pad here, kind of in the middle of the screen, and then the paint treatment is on the lower left here.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
I would defer to the applicant to further explain.
Yeah, let's have the project be presented, and then we can have a lot of these more deeper discussions. I think we might get some of or even better information from the actual presentation. So,
thank you.
All right.
I keep in mind, I do have questions.
Oh, I'm sure. So I think that let's go to the presentation, and then we may be circling back to some of this older stuff for clarity afterwards. Okay, so if the applicant is here.
Yes, I am, Chairman Grumby.
Okay, great. If you would introduce yourself and your team, if you have more than one person, for the record, and then you'll have 15 minutes to do your presentation, and then I would also ask, because as you hear already, part of this step is just to understand what actually happened historically, and how the sequence of design or other changes were, and then we'll dive into it more in questions afterwards. But if you could kind of weave that into your presentation as well, so that we're as up to date as possible with because most of the commissioners were not on here, and even those that were on when this was approved, it was still quite some time ago.
Most definitely. Thank you, Chairman Grumby and commissioners. Yes, this is these are the original drawings, and it was all approved to install the transformer and the sidewalk modifications in that area. All the work was completed and inspected. The only thing left really would be the decorative paint, as was detailed on the next sheet there. So that is the last thing to complete for this project. in discussion with, and this is I mean, I am the applicant officially because the transformer was installed for the museum mostly as we were going through our large renovation. The transformer, as a little background, was sized to also provide power for the library and the parking garage whenever those facilities would be hooked up to this transformer. So it's really a combination of the art museum. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I am the director of facilities for the art museum. And been working closely with the library director, Jessica Cadiente, on this project. Both the library director, Cadiente, and our museum director, Larry Feinberg, well, frankly, they don't like the paint as proposed. We would much rather screen it with plant material. And that's where we are today with, I believe there's a photo sim that was produced. The proposed, yes, there it is. This is in discussion with city parks who prefer this plant material. So I've really been working closely with city engineer. I don't know that anyone else is from that team is here today.
Mr. Copland, if you can let me know any names, they may be in the attendees list.
Bradley Klingzer was the city engineer that had a lot to do with this project at the time. Let's see, most recent addition, city engineer, I'm sorry, his name's Jesse, my memory's failed me there, city engineer. And I guess no one from the library is on either. Jessica Caliente.
And the other name is Jesse Wheeler from facility.
Wheeler, thank you, Nicole. Thank you.
Mr. Copland, unfortunately, I don't see those people on the attendees list.
Okay. As I mentioned, I am the official applicant as the director of facilities at the museum. It's a really combined effort here, trying to coordinate the landscaping around what is city property and the transformer that was placed in this location after many alternate sites were looked at. This was the site that was finally determined to be the best, and it happens to be on city property. So, and as I mentioned, we'll provide power eventually for the library and the parking garage. What else can I tell you about it?
And well, I guess we can go into more questions on it, but just go, if you want to go through, fill us in on anything else from the previous project till now. It seems like it's the paint, was it other paint color or design tried, or is there a rendering of it? Or was there, or was it just looked at and decided that you didn't want to?
There were renderings done. I didn't receive any of those drawings. There were projections at some of the HLC hearings by the Campbells where it was approved. There's a kind of reddish color, a bluish color, and a white in those chevron designs. One thing I don't think that was considered originally was the configuration of the transformer box itself. When you look at all sides of that transformer, that paint would be very difficult to carry over. The front side of it here is the best side that would accept that paint readily if it were desired. The sides and the back of it have various planes that would make that paint scheme difficult to achieve or difficult to make look good.
Okay.
It's
okay. Does that conclude your presentation?
I believe it does. I can't really think of anything else. As I say, the project's complete except for some sort of screening. Library director Caliente wanted some planting around it. And so this is what we've come up with working with parks.
Okay. All right. In that case, if you're done with your presentation, sounds good. We'll go to public comment.
Mr. Chair, before we do that, it would seem like there would be more to present about what landscaping is proposed, and there's several more pages to the presentation set. So I'm wondering if there should be some more presentation.
Yeah, did you want to continue just to flip through and describe your sheets a little more?
Well, here are, okay, there's the actual planting plan. We engaged Arcadia Studio to do this work. Seemed like a natural fit for them to do it, as they've done all the landscaping around the library. I know originally the Campbells had many more plantings planned for that area from the transformer as you head back into the Paseo area towards Figueroa Street. That is something that through various permutations of the project, as we completed the project, that the city engineers and whoever was in charge from the engineer level up decided that the city would take on the plantings and the irrigation. And I don't know where that stands right now, especially with the change from the Campbell's design around the library and Arcadia Studio now having done the designs for the rest of the library and city property areas.
Okay. And then was there anything else to show?
Site photos as it exists now, with no plantings around it. It's one of them.
And Mr. Chair, and to the applicant, I just wanted to note that Bradley Klinsing from the city engineering team is here as well to answer questions.
All right, thank you.
And that does conclude the plan set. So whenever we're ready to open public comment, I'm ready.
Great. All right. So does that now conclude your presentation?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much, commissioners.
All right. Thank you. All right. Now we'll close open public comment, and any member of the public wishing to comment on this item, you can click on the raise hand icon, and then you'll have to unmute yourself by clicking on the unmute button, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair Grumbine and commissioners. At this time, I see several members of the public in attendance. And while we wait, I can confirm that we did receive written correspondence from Ann Howard for this item. So it looks like Miss Ann Howard has raised their hand. Please accept the unmute request and you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. You can hear me now, I assume?
Yes.
I'm Ann Howard. I'm the board president of the Library Foundation. As you know, I submitted some written comment and I had the misspelled word yard in there, meaning that we had already worked, not yard, but hard with Arcadia on the plans for the new library plaza. We thank you for your approval of the plans. And I expressed my dismay over the idea of plants. None of us want to see plants in that area. We've removed many plants around the design of the plaza, as you know, and in conversation with you, we've found drought tolerant materials and materials that don't hide the kind of paraphernalia that can get left behind, like backpacks, shopping carts, bottles, and trash bags. So to add plants in that particular location at this time seems to be to backtrack way too far. I certainly agree that Chevron design is too complicated, and Jessica Cariente had said that. Just a plain paint that would match all the tan walls would be preferable to a new hiding place there. I was at the library this morning with my two little grandsons. We also went over to La Arcada, and they were intrigued with the neon lights inside the museum. They wanted to go, but it was lunchtime. And there, gathered around that transformer area, were some folks. The air reeked of cannabis and marijuana, and a bunch of trash and all was placed there, as it usually is. So that's only to say we don't need more hiding places. I think to keep it clean and clear and simple and open is what the donors who put up the 5 million and what library patrons, museum patrons, La Arcada shoppers and diners and courthouse visitors would like to see. Just clean, open, simple, and not yet another place that requires a watering system would also keep with our effort to be environmentally sound with this new plaza. So we're all a little confused about hearing about plants coming in. That was quite disturbing. So I think I've said my piece. If you have any questions of me on behalf of the foundation, I'm happy to try and answer that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
All right, thank you. I see another member of the public wishing to speak, Lauren Trujillo. I will unmute you and you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Lauren Trujillo, and I'm the Foundation Director of the Santa Barbara Public Library Foundation. I'm going to echo a lot of Ann Howard's comments, but thank you for your ongoing support and commitment to the beauty of Santa Barbara. We've really appreciated your review and approval of the plans for Library Plaza, and we're excited to break ground in 2022. The plaza will really be a community gathering space for the entire community. But I'm here today to ask you to stay committed to the plans that we've based this new Library Plaza design off of. It is critical that the transformer on Library Avenue does not have bushes or plants placed around it. The new design was put into place with the intent to remove these types of spaces and create an open and fluid space. I really feel that that picture that was last up on your slides really shows how you can see clear through the parking lot with the with no shrub around there. Library Avenue is a highly trafficked area, and we expect it to be even busier as the Library Plaza is complete. The installation of bushes or screening will not support this clear path and provide new hiding spaces, as Ann Howard shared. So I'm asking you to please stay true to the original intent that we considered in the Library Plaza design and consider the space in its entirety. Thank you.
All right, so at this time, I don't see any more raised hands, so I'll turn it over back to you, Chair Grumbine.
All right, thank you. So we'll go back to the board, or sorry, to the commission for questions.
Mr. Chair.
Any questions? Commissioner Drury.
Yes, I guess the first question is, I'm wondering why this, after it was approved some years ago, why it's suddenly come back up. And I'm also wondering where the presentation, it must be in the file somewhere, what the colors were going to be in the design. There was a number of different ideas, actually having design on the transformer or just a solid color. And I guess I'm getting the idea that the drift us toward a neutral color, because that, you know, that green SCE color is really obnoxious, and it certainly doesn't lend itself to disappearing. So I think that the whole idea 5 or 6 years ago was that you're going to try to ameliorate the impact of that big transformer box and try to move it off of that color. But I don't remember exactly what the options were. I know that there was a design at one point that was approved. I'd like if Mr. Hamill could find those. I would feel a bit undergunned and actually a bit blindsided by this if I wasn't able to see what was proposed and approved and got final approval 6 years ago. That makes sense?
Is there a question in there?
it was a quest statement, I guess.
Okay, so I guess part of the questions you seem to be in there were what was what was the design like? You said, I think you mentioned the wanting to see the what would it look like to actually do it as was approved? Is that where you were?
Yeah, I'd like to see what was approved. Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, so Vice Chair House.
One of the plan sheets that was up on the screen earlier, I think it was from perhaps the 2015 review. There it is on the lower left. That shows the herringbone chevron pattern that was proposed to be painted, and it calls out 4 different colors. So I think we can all kind of imagine what that would look like. So in terms of questions, my question would be, not assuming that plantings are going to happen, but if we were to entertain that, has Edison reviewed and approved the location of those plants that close to the transformer? I would hate to approve something only to find they say it needs to be much further away. So I don't know if the applicant can speak to that.
All right, to the applicant on that question. And then as well, we'll sort of rope in the, looking at this transformer black and white thing, there's arrow, looks like the top is arrowroot and sailor suit, and then a top band, and then there's some more arrowroot thrown in there, and then some frond of green. And everyone knows what frond of green is. And then there's fresh nasturtium as the final bottom layer along the bottom. So that's at least the paint diagram. So I guess that's part of the Mr. Drury's question, but also just about what that looks like maybe in color if there was any renderings. So that's one question.
I think that there was.
Yeah, and whether the applicant has those to show us in any way. So I guess we'll start with that and then also Vice Chair House's question about is it location in that, or?
Sure, if it's my time to speak.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, please.
That drawing with the colors called out was as approved. The Campbell's proposed it. It was approved at HLC, and I was not provided the actual plan other than this diagram. I wasn't, like I say, it was a kind of an odd project in that it was a transformer placed here because of the museum's project, but it's on city property, and the city engaged the Campbell team to do the landscaping. And I never did receive files of any sort on paper or electronic showing these, showing the design. I think you can see from the drawing, from the black and white drawing, we feel that it's quite busy and would call a lot of attention to the transformer. We're certainly amenable to painting it, you know, a neutral color like the walls. That is very doable. And as far as I'm concerned, myself and speaking for the museum, probably preferable to the plants. We were responding to various ideas about having plantings around this. And I understand the logic of not having places to hide anything and so forth. Absolutely.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, Vice Chair House.
I would still like to know whether or not Edison has been consulted on the placement of those plants and whether or not that provides their required clearances. And likewise, I would also want to know if Edison approves of anybody putting paint on their transformer. I mean, I hate to get too far into this discussion without knowing that they're even going to allow that to happen.
I believe I could address that. There are very exact guidelines about plantings around transformers. You'll notice the space in front of the transformer for access to it, and the space between the plantings and the transformer itself are all per Edison guidelines. I don't know that they look at plans like this and approve them. I don't have that level of detail of the approval process, but these were done, as were the Campbell plans that showed a lot of planting around this per the Edison specifications. As far as the paint goes, they pre-approved any kind of paint we would want to put on it, as long as it the paint itself conform to specifications that Edison has in writing. And I have those on file somewhere, but if we do paint it, it would be done according to their specifications.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Other commissioner questions?
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to butt in again.
Yeah, Commissioner Drury?
Yes, are those yellow safety posts, are they approved as well? I don't recall those from the original. In that photograph of the site, bright yellow.
Yeah, the bollards,
so to speak.
They do appear on the plan view.
They're not there.
They appear on the later plan view, but do they appear on the original? Is that your question, Commissioner?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Do we have the Campbell plans that show what was approved? I had actually a follow-up question with that. Did you say that there were plantings that the Campbell plan had around this Edison thing? And if so, what were they proposing?
There were plantings taking up just about every square foot of the space between the sidewalk and Lara Cotta and the transformer. And I understand we don't want to do a lot of plantings now, but that is how the Campbells had it designed. And the bollards, as they're called, you can see them on the plan. I assume the color is a standard color. I don't know that for a fact, but I know that there are standard colors for the bollards and they are required by Edison.
Okay. All right.
Thank
you. Any other
I just have,
Ms. Hernandez?
I do have the presentation from 2015. I just forwarded it to Ted. And when he gets back, he can show it to you. He's sharing his screen. So.
Okay, great.
If you wanted to.
I'll go ahead and pause share and pull that up. I also was able to locate a rendering.
All right. This is one beauty of Zoom and all the screen sharing quickly goes. maybe it's maybe it's not. Just as a report, just so we're understanding this what we're seeing on the screen now, there's a 0-1 next to pointing out right around the transformer. Is that the plantings call out, or is that just a transformer call out? I'm just trying to find out where the planting call out is from the Campbell plan, because obviously things have changed, but also just knowing what was approved or how it was intended. Whoever's screen sharing might be handing things over right now. So. Patient.
All right, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, can you see the presentation up on screen? Yep. Scan, okay. There's also a rendering of the transformer painted.
Gotcha, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have
go to the other ones too. Yes, fire away.
My question is about the proposed planting materials. This Carissa macrocarpa, these Natal plums, and they're 5-gallon, specified as 5-gallon specimens. But my question is, does anybody know how large those plants become?
Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair House.
I don't know how tall they get, but I know that it has a lot of thorns on it. So it's commonly used as planting along a sidewalk to help keep people from venturing into it, because it's not a very friendly plant.
Thank you.
So it might at least get 3 feet tall. I don't know if it gets to something like 6 feet or anything.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, can we zoom into these other renderings too, since we have them up? Let's go one by one. And maybe tell us what we're looking at. One looks like a tunnel that we can drive into.
Yeah. There's a trompe l'oeil on the front of the transformer.
The transformer trompe l'oeil. That's like a Bugs Bunny cartoon, Wile E. Coyote like running into the tunnel.
Yep.
Santa Barbara style. Okay. Can we go to the next one?
Obviously, the color scheme seems to have been inspired by that bird of paradise flower.
Yeah, there we go. Right. And then we go to the next one.
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
Eyewash drawings can convince you of anything.
Mr. Chair, can we have comments pretty soon? Can we have comments pretty soon?
Yeah, we will. I want to make sure we've gotten through all the material. But yes, we'll fold into comments quite soon. Okay, so there's our colors, or a version of them. Okay, is that all the images that was able to be found?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that appears to be the extent of what's in the design review file from 2015.
Okay, great, thank you. So in that case, I think any other, if we, let's go into any other questions before we roll into comments. I think it seems like we have a pretty good handle on where everything is. Any other questions? All right, let's go into comments. Who would like to start?
I would.
Let's hear Commissioner Lenvik.
All right, Commissioner Lenvik. All right.
Mr. Hamilton, would you zoom in on that rendering right there a little bit, please? My first comment is that, thank you. There is some planting at the base of that, isn't there? My first comment is that the best transformer is the transformer you can't see. And I think that we probably, as we see denser buildings occurring in our downtown area, that we never see the transformer until after the fact, and they end up obscuring windows or architectural elements or whatever. And I think we've got to be more concerned about that when we review projects. But what I see, I agree with the library board members and such, that the plantings don't add anything to that transformer that we currently see placed there. And going through my mind, I don't know why we don't see a piece of art there. And I think that this rendering is art. And it certainly is appropriate, I believe, to the beautiful library improvements that are being made, as well as the rear entry to the museum. I don't think the transformer in any way, shape, or form should be left green, should be left industrial. I think it should be a piece of art. Either that's painting the transformer itself or building an enclosure around it that can be moved as Edison needs to get to it, by way of all doors or whatever, creating a piece of art. And I think that anything less than that is a disservice to the community that uses this rear entry to the museum and parking garage and over to Figueroa Street and so on and so forth. So I could not support what we see before us today from the standpoint of landscaping, yellow barricade pylons and a green transformer. I think we've got to do better than that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Lenvick. Vice Chair House.
I largely agree with those comments. I am very sympathetic to the concern about plantings around the transformer, even though the nature of that particular plant is a deterrent. There's still space between the plant and the transformer for trash to accumulate or people. And to the extent that those plantings could grow tall enough to conceal view of the transformer, they're even more of a problem for giving places to people to hide. So I don't think that's the best solution. I am concerned about any solution that involves painting the transformer. I don't know if that equipment is powder coated, but I just have a feeling that it's going to be a maintenance nightmare to get paint to stick well to it in the first place, and it's going to get graffiti on it or defaced, however, and never be an attractive thing. We see some palm trees in this rendering. That was one thought that came to mind, to have some other things that kind of attract your eye away from the transformer, because right now it's just the transformer and some very plain stucco planes of the wall. But, I think what might be the best solution is, I'm thinking of, is probably a trash enclosure next to the Charles Schwab building on Chapala. And it's a very simple stucco enclosure, but on top of it, it's got an iron framework, maybe out of 3/4 inch square bars or something. So it would keep somebody from being able to get into that enclosure, but it, provides the necessary ventilation. And if that were built out of concrete block and plastered, then that could replace the need for those bollards there, because it's just a very industrial intrusion on the space we've all worked so hard on for years. So it's, what's proposed right now is just not acceptable at all. And I think they need to get much more creative with a solution that meets Edison's needs and meets the library's needs and meets the community's needs.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair House. Other comments?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Drury.
Well, I agree with Commissioner Lenvick and Commissioner House, and I think we need to do better in that corner. I in retrospect, 6 years on, I don't think that Malaga tile design is particularly attractive. I'd like to see something run. Edison may have a very limited palette, but they probably have a little bit of a palette in terms of choices. I think that should be brought back to us when the project comes back for this review after final again, because I think that as proposed with the yellow ballers and the big green transformer box, I think that's just not acceptable. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Edmonds.
I too went to the library, interestingly enough, this morning, because I needed to go to the library. So I had an opportunity to look at this area, and I pretty much agree with everyone's comments. I'm not offended by the green, but I do like Commissioner Lenbeck's comments about it's an opportunity for art. I understand graffiti is a problem, but it's an area that anybody who's parking in that parking lot and going into the library or walking around the corner to get into La Arcata, is going to see it. So it seems to me that anytime we can have something to beautify, a space that we can beautify for everyone is a benefit. But I also want to comment in regards to Mrs. Howard's comments. There was just trash everywhere. There were people hanging out, because it was cold this morning and somebody was curled up in a sleeping bag, in an area, not right there at the transformer, but it's an area that is just full of unfortunate, whether it's trash or it's unfortunate situations with people. So I think the plantings is a terrible idea, and I could not support putting plants there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other comments?
Mr. Chair.
And then, Mr. Chair, I have one after.
All right, Commissioner Uli.
It's unfortunate that the opportunity to put this transformer in an underground vault was not explored, because I believe that is the ultimate solution, is to bury it. They're buried all over the place, and this would have been a perfect place to do it. But it's there now, and we've got to deal with it. And I would support an artistic approach that would turn the vault or the transformer in some way into a piece of art, including the use of the ballards as part of that art expression.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Drury.
Yeah, just to further one more comment, piggybacking on Commissioner Lenvick's comment. We were told at the Paseo 3, or the Lot 3 meeting, I should say, by the new Director of Public Works, that we're going to have more transformers proposed because of the continuing problem with power outages in the core of the business district. I don't know if Commissioner, I don't know if Commissioner Howes remembers that, but it was very, that's my dog. Wait a minute, I've got garbage people outside.
Okay, does anyone else want to jump in while?
Mr. Chair, I'll just add that I have heard that Edison is adamant about not undergrounding any transformers any longer because it's a huge maintenance issue for them. So I don't think that's an option that they would consider if it were requested of them.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Jordan.
I'll make a very short comment because I am endorsing what my fellow commissioners have said. But my comment is that infrastructure is not invisible. It's a prominent and at times very intrusive presence on streets and public ways. And so we have to do a better job of putting these transformers around the city than we're doing at the present. And if HLC has a role to play enforcing that, then I endorse that action wholeheartedly.
Right. Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
Chair, just to finish my thought. Yeah, the idea being that if we're going to have more transformers, which seems to be just a de facto thing, and they're going to be above ground, even though we would love to see them vaulted. to Mr. Lemvick's point, we need to make sure that there's at least some idea of a semblance of proper placement and making them disappear as much as possible, as much as those big blocks can. So I would like for the commission to pursue an artistic solution to these proliferation of transformers. Thank you.
All right,
Mr.
thank you,
Chair?
Commissioner Drury. Commissioner Lemvick, and if we do need to get moving on, keep
Yes,
things moving on.
I agree.
Go ahead.
I think that, Edison would prefer not to underground their power lines. Edison would prefer to do a lot of things that make their life easy. And in turn, that makes everyone else's life a little more uncomfortable. We don't realize it, but it does. The beauty is something that kind of seeps into you and ugly seeps into you as well. But I think that I'd be concerned from what I hear from Mr. Drury and Mr. House regarding Edison's plans for this community. We're going to see a lot more transformers come in with requests for approval after the fact. And if we don't get tough now, then we're going to lose. And I think that finding an artistic solution is something this community can do. We found an artistic solution to what's behind the Granada Theater and that Paseo with regard to murals and such. I think we can find a good solution to transformers, but we've got to be willing to stand up and say, this has got to be done. And I think that we could see something better done to this after the fact transformer. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Lemvick. All right, so I think that, and sorry, was Mr. Hamilton, did you say that you wanted to, that you had something that you wanted to bring up, or was that not? Or was I seeing something?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I just wanted to briefly check in with the applicant team, particularly Brad Klinzing. He had his hand raised on the webinar, and I just wanted to make sure that he got a chance to speak if he wanted to. So Mr. Klinzing, if you want to just pop on and confirm whether you want to say anything or not, that would be appreciated.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I am available to provide some more background on the project. But it seems like where the discussion's going right now, we're kind of past that phase and more into deliberation. But if the commission would like to hear, I could speak for a minute or two on how we got to where we are.
Please.
Yes, please.
Okay.
And, actually, if you could introduce yourself as what your role is as well.
Sure. My name is Brad Klinzing. I'm supervising engineer, and I was the supervising engineer for Public Works Facilities, so managing the south entrance project at the library, and also was very familiar with the construction of this transformer project.
Okay,
and
great.
Mr. Hamilton, if you can go to the 2015 plans. And so this is the site plan. It does show 3 bollards next to the transformer. Edison had us add 1 more bollard that was visible in the present view that Mr. Copeland had. But if you're able to go to a additional pages on that 2015, there should be a planting plan in there that shows you what was approved. So like that's sheet 9. Yeah, continue down. So yeah, there was the irrigation plan there. And here's the planting plan. So you can see it's quite extensive plantings that were proposed in that area. And due to various budget constraints with the south entrance in this project, we had to defer the landscape and the irrigation work around the transformer. And where it came about to having to close this building permit, that's when we brought up the discussion of the paint scheme for the transformer. Without the landscaping around that area, it didn't quite look right as to what should be in this area. And so library, downtown parking, public works facilities, the museum staff, we looked at it, the transformer paint scheme, and said, is there something that we should propose as an alternate there? And So also looking at that paint scheme, how easy is it to maintain on that transformer? Similar to what Commissioner House was expressing as far as applying the paint scheme, maintaining the paint scheme. Those were concerns that Public Works had. And so we looked at some alternatives, and the natal plums was discussed because that is a plant that is being proposed throughout the plaza, Library Plaza project. And it's my understanding that those don't get more than 2 feet tall. So it's a low ground type shrub that wouldn't deter or wouldn't impact the transformer as far as concealing it too much or offering an area that may encourage certain folks to congregate around. I believe those are the main comments that I wanted to share with everyone. If there's further questions, I'm happy to field those now.
Great. Thank you. All right. And with that additional information, is there any other questions from the commission? Okay. All right.
Sorry,
any
Mr.
more
Chair.
discussion? Yeah, Commissioner Zuri.
Sure. I was trying to stop my dog from barking. Yeah, my question of Chief Engineer is that then there is some room in terms of the palette of a solid color on that transformer by Southern California Edison. Did I understand that?
I can't speak for sure about what Edison would allow on that. The reason why we brought up this alternative paint scheme and proposing the natal plums is because when we looked at the approved plans with the chevron pattern and the diamond pattern, it just didn't look like it was something that we wanted to question and make sure it was in fact what was desired in this location.
Well, it was desired by the Historic Landmarks Commission 6 years ago. I would have second thoughts now, but in terms of the application of paint, I mean, that's something we need to really get to the bottom of. If Edison is willing to go along with a color scheme, even if a solid color, maybe the same value, maybe a different color, but the same value as the wall behind it, where that lamp is in the rendering. That would be a good thing. I don't know if who would facilitate that, Mr. Chair. Finding out about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it seems like what was the discussion was from the city was that I don't think anyone's saying that you can't paint them, but that it might not last as long or well, right? I think that was that's the main concern, is that long term it might not look good in a couple of years, and then it's complex to repaint. And there's a chainsaw in the background that's trying to compete with your dog, Commissioner Drury. So I'm sorry about that. Of my audio, if it's coming through too strong. So I think that's where we got kind of is if we're not happy with it, I think we should be giving direction. And I don't think it has to be necessarily specific. This is coming back just for review after final with a different design. So I think that if we can give some direction for things to look at and things to try, which I did hear some comments of, I think we need to go there. But I don't think that it's impossible to ask for a different colored paint or a different paint solution. I think painting is possible in any of the schemes, correct?
Sounds like it. Mr. Chair, I'd be ready to try a motion.
All right. Why don't you give it a shot, Vice Chair House?
Let me preface it by just expressing my personal opinion that I think putting a painted pattern on the transformer is putting lipstick on the pig and just calls more attention to it instead of helping it disappear. And I think I thoroughly appreciate the comment that, if we look at the actual transformer and all the, pop outs and bumps and this and that on the thing, it's a much different animal than what was in that rendering, which was just a simple cube. Anyway, my motion would be for an indefinite continuance, recognizing that there have been several suggestions made, and those would include some sort of artistic treatment of the transformer, or a solid color paint on the transformer, or an enclosure perhaps out of concrete block that is plastered with a steel grill over the top, but that the commission is not in favor of the planting solution as proposed. And we would also like to see the bollards.
It's 3 o'clock.
Who said that?
And it's 3 o'clock, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. So we would like to see the bollards eliminated if at all possible.
All right.
I'll second that.
Got a motion by Vice Chair House, a second by Commissioner Drury. Under discussion. Discussion about it. All right.
Mr. Chair?
In that case, yes, Commissioner Edmonds.
As we look at this photograph, you're driving into you've got this driveway off of Anacapa, and so you're driving in. You're going to turn left right before this to enter the garage. Are the bollards not there just in case someone was to ram? I mean, if you went straight, you'd hit that transformer. So
Yeah,
I'm not
I think
saying that I like
ballard-
them. Don't misunderstand me. I'm just
No, I
wondering if
think-
they don't have to be there.
Well, my suggestion was that if we had a concrete block enclosure, that would take the place of the bollards because that would provide equivalent protection.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Or maybe like Santa and some reindeer as the bollard. If you take them out.
Exactly.
That's right. Okay. Any other discussion? All right. In that case, let's go to roll call vote.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan,
Don't see a thumbs up, Commissioner Mahan?
all right, Commissioner
I
Mahan's
see a thumbs up.
Yeah.
His thumbs up signals an approval for the record. Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
All right, thank you. The motion carries.
You. All right, and this is not any appealable action. So we are on for item 4 now. We have a total of 6 items. With the last starting at 3:50. I would like to see if we can take a 10-minute recess here. I'm gonna try to get to a different location for sound wise, but also Commissioner Mahan, you may be able to either log out, and when you dial in, you might be able to call with a different, in a different way, like a landline or something else too. And you might be able to solve your audio problems as well. Vice Chair House, I think you're muted.
There we
Vice
go.
Chair House,
The-
there you go.
Yeah, the chainsaw in the background is barely noticeable, at least from what I hear. So it's not
Oh,
interfering.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, and that's good. In that case, I can say, but does everyone want to try to do that recess right now, or do you want to hold on and go through one more?
I'm in favor of moving forward.
Plunge on.
Okay, let's plunge on. Okay. Let's go on to item 4 then, 223 East Cabrillo Boulevard. This is continued item, project design approval. Proposal to construct a pergola, install landscape planters, new fencing, and lighting at the patio adjacent to Casa Las Palmas. Project includes renovation of a snack bar and ADA accessibility upgrades. Project design approval is requested. Project compatibility findings are required. All right.
All right, Mr.
All
Chair.
right, and so do we, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Hamilton.
I do see Justin Van Mollem and some members of the applicant team in the attendees list. I am trying to promote them to panelists. I think on the applicant's end, you need to select accept or some sort of affirmative that you want to be a panelist. If that's not working, I might ask Ms. Tarnowskaya to promote them if for some reason I don't have the ability.
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Vice Chair House.
I am going to abstain on this item because I think I missed 2 previous reviews and I have not watched the video.
Okay.
Mr.
So you're abstaining from voting, but you can still ask questions, correct?
And abstain from commenting.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Yep, good point. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Is that Commissioner Manuel?
Yeah, sorry, I need to recuse myself for conflict of interest with the owner.
Okay. For letting us know. All right, and is the applicant here?
Yes, this is Elijah Pierce, the architect.
All right, great. So if you would like, you can have, or if you have up to 15 minutes, you'll have for presentation. We have minutes from before, is that correct?
Yes.
That we can review. Okay, so after we review that, and then if there is anything else from Mr. Hamilton's point of view or comments, and then you'll have 15 minutes to present.
Thank you.
All right, so last time we had, let's see, the motion was to continue indefinitely with the following comments. The cantilever side of the arbor is currently missing a bracket. The arbor shall have brackets on both sides. The height of the arbor needs to be lowered and more human scale. And that's number one. Number two, in terms of materials, some commissioners felt that wood would be more compatible. And if we can scroll down a little further. Okay, great. In some commissioners felt would be more compatible with the EPV design district, while some commissioners felt that steel and a cottage hospital look was acceptable. Some commissioners were in favor of decorative wrought iron. 3, provide a precedent study for both a single column arbor with a single center spine of support, as well as for an asymmetrically proposed trellis. 4, provide a planting or landscape plan which shows what is currently existing versus what is being proposed. And the action was by Commissioner Jordan, second by Uli, 6-0-0. Manuel, Drury, and House were absent. The motion carried. All right. So with that, if the applicant wants to proceed, and you'll have 15 minutes to present. You don't have to take the whole time, but.
Excellent. Chair Grumbine and commissioners, thank you very much. If we could, I'd like to start on page 3 of this PDF. And take a look at the aerial photograph in the upper right-hand corner. I think this gives a good sense of things. So this is the existing condition. This is the Casa Las Palmas across the street from Chase Palm Park. And this plaza is really the center of our design. The proposed pergola and trellis is going to be right where your mouse is exactly in this central feature. And we thought this image did a nice job of showing that this plaza right now has a bit of a gap, and that we feel as though the pergola really fills this gap, that it finishes this semicircular design, and it complements that space and provides that visual completion of that space. And from here you can, I think, see how it would be bookended on either side by the existing buildings. There's a restroom building to the north, and then to the east is the snack bar. So just wanted to put this in context first. This is what we are looking towards, really trying to complete the enclosure of this plaza. So if we zoom out a little to this page, also take a look at some precedents that we looked at. So in our discussion at our last hearing, we talked a little bit about trying to find some precedent for a single post trellis. One of the local examples that was mentioned is the Cottage Hospital, their cantilevered steel coverings. So if you look at the bus stop, that's a very clear single post design. However, it was mentioned, and I agree, that Cottage Hospitals, their detailing is, I'd say, pushing the envelope in terms of what I would typically expect to see in the EPV. We, as you'll see in our design, I think we're trying to adhere to a little more traditional styling in our ironwork. But there is some precedent for these asymmetrical cantilever designs. And in our opinion, we have not overextended the cantilever. It is kind of a reasonable structural cantilever that can be done in metal that doesn't have the feel of a overly modern or contemporary style. In the center here is some custom ironwork detailing that we really looked at, Casa del Herrero. We began looking at that building. They do have a single row arcade, but really fell in love with some of the wrought iron detailing. And when we get to the detailing on the project, you'll see hopefully some of the influences of those. If you zoom out a little over to the bottom left corner, you can also see we had talked a bit about the Parisian metropolitan subway stations. Obviously, the detailing is very different. We won't be going Art Nouveau, but I think it serves the point. There are traditional ways in which you can have a cantilever that makes some tectonic sense, and we've really tried to adhere to that in our designs. If we can move to page 2 of the, there we go. These are the existing site photos, and in the discussion of wood versus metal, in looking around the site, you'll see that it's entirely devoid of wood detailing, though you do see a fair amount of wrought iron and metal work. And we think this sticking with metal makes sense for a couple of reasons. One, it complements the existing ironwork found throughout the site, but also on a practical sense, the Parks Department's had very good luck using a two-part epoxy coating for their metal work when closer to the ocean, and they'd very much prefer to keep with that in terms of functionality. We think we can make it look very beautiful, fit in with EPV, but also we really do want to make something that's highly durable for the Parks Department. All right, if we could please move to page number 7 of the PDF. Excellent. So here we have a conceptual perspective, and what we're hoping to show here is how this trellis really fits in between that kind of bookending of the two accessory buildings. And so though we do have a cantilever, it's not done without reason, that we are supporting that central plaza space. And as a functional element, it's providing the shade and covering for that plaza. And so we felt as though dropping down secondary posts detract from that function. And it's not an arcade, it's not a walkway through, it's not connecting one path to another. It's providing covering and kind of an enclosure to that plaza. And in that sense, we really feel as though the cantilever works functionally to support that goal of creating that enclosed plaza feel. If we can move to page number 9, please. Thank you. So here we can get into a little detailing. So we are proposing a wrought iron and steel look with scrollwork supports and custom detailing throughout. We are proposing that this will be supporting wisteria, so a fair amount of this, the upper trellis will be covered in that with a successful drawing of wisteria, but we still want some of the detail that's more at the eye level to have a little bit of playfulness and character to it. So you'll find throughout some of our detailing some kind of palm motifs, kind of playing off the Casa Las Palmas and Chase Palm Park and the palms around. But trying to stay within a very kind of traditional character. Also, as suggested, we've brought down the scale of the trellis since the last time we've been before the commission. We're now at 8 feet to the underside of the bottom beam. So more human scale, we feel, that gives, good covering, adequate headroom, but has pulled it down quite a bit from our last revision. If moving on from the trellis, there is one other aspect, an architectural aspect on the site. Move to page 13. Something we wanted to review with the commission. This is the concessions building, and there is a pass-through window that currently has basically a plywood board placed in front of it. And that's kind of for safety and security, but obviously it's not the most attractive at the moment. So what we are proposing is a decorative shutter design with a plank styling, some clavos, and decorative hinges. And ideally what we'd like to do is to provide a hook and ring system so that when it's in actual use, this is hinged at the top and it can be attached. So you get basically a little awning when it would actually be used. So it's used infrequently, but we think this could be a nice feature when it is actually used to be able to basically provide a little bit of shade for the pass-through window. All right. And zooming back out, I did want to take just one general look at the site. If we go to page number 10, please. Thank you. So there were some questions on our last meeting about some of the existing things. So all of the trees here are existing, and so we are proposing keeping these trees as are. Where we are proposing new plantings are one directly next to the posts of the trellis for the wisteria, and then the two semicircular planting areas flanking the central steps. And if you go to the next page, 11, you can see our palette of plants that we're proposing in these planter areas. So drought tolerant and native, but also trying to provide a little bit of pop and color for those planter areas. All right. So I think that's kind of a good summary of where we're at. As Chair Grumbine mentioned, we are seeking preliminary design approval today. So we're hoping that we can get to a point that would be acceptable to the commission. And I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So that completes your presentation?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. So now we'll close public comments, or sorry, open public comment. And any member of the public wishing to comment on this item, please click on the raise hand icon, and you'll then get be able to unmute yourself, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners and Chair Grumbine. If any member of the public would like to speak on this item, please click on the raise your hand icon and I will call on you. So at this time, I don't see any hands raised, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this item. So I'll turn it over back to you, Chair Grumbine.
All right, thank you. All right, to the commission with for questions. Close public comment to the commission for questions.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Drury.
I was not there at the meeting October 27th, so I'm going to abstain from commenting and voting. Thank you.
Right, thank you. There are commissioners with questions.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yeah, Commissioner Lambert.
In the, is the 6x8 beam, support beam, that's resting on the columns, is that beam radiused in plan?
No, not on our current design, it's not.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, I had one question. So, and actually this view kind of shows it. So can you zoom into the left figure with the showing the cantilever relief? So was there a thought, well, I guess the first question is, were you looking at this, or were you looking at the, like you see 6x6 HSS steel rafter, 6x8 HSS steel beam? Are your beams looking to sort of timber sizes as their proportions, or are they looking to more metal beam sizes as their proportions? And as a sort of maybe tie or talk to the examples that you showed at Cottage Hospital, where you have they're sort of more, they're sort of a hybrid, and then maybe they're more of a metal-like proportion, and they have like a web, and they're not trying to look exactly like wood proportioned beams. So what was the thinking on the sizing of the members?
Absolutely. So we studied a couple options, and we had, when we started going towards a metal look, we originally did, I'll say, a much lighter weight, almost kind of a grill work look that was very not to any sort of wood proportions. But in doing that, we didn't like that for a couple of reasons, and most notably, we didn't feel as though it held the space nearly as well. We wanted something with a little more oomph. So while we're not in any way attempting to make this look like wood or go faux wood, we did feel like more significant members succeeded in providing a real element that it feels like it's there and that it encloses the space. So that was our general thinking behind sizing these.
Okay, great. And then this shot is a good one as well. But so visually, you only have brackets on one side of and then you have it cantilevering on the other. You have a wrought iron bracket in the rear. Was there a thought to, and if not, why not, putting either brackets on both sides or brackets on the longer, cantilevering side, since it's doing more work and hanging out more? It has more weight hanging out at the end. Was there certain discussion within that regarding that?
Absolutely. So two things really went into the decision on the bracket placement. One, we did feel as though placing the bracket on the backside still does make some structural sense. Basically, that bracket would be in tension, that you're holding down the backside of your cantilever. But in the space, the cantilever side is pointing towards the plaza, and we were trying to keep that area as open as possible. But functionally, this hopefully the city will be able to rent this out as a venue. We'll have tables and chairs and everything under there. We hesitated to bring down that area any lower. You know, it's at 8 feet right now. People will be walking under that side. Where on the back side, it's really over the little planter areas. So we're trying to keep it open on the user side and hold the decorative side to the outside, while maintaining something that I think is kind of tectonically believable, that we do have a bit of wrought iron that's holding down that backside of the cantilever.
Okay. Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair?
Is that Vice Chair House?
It is.
All right.
Following up on Commissioner Lenvick's question, do you have a plan view that shows how the beam and the battens are faceted instead of radiused?
So I'll pull up. Well, there's site plan if you go to sheet, there, perfect. So I want to make sure I understood and responded to the question correctly.
Well, I can clarify a little bit. I got the impression that Mr. Commissioner Lenvick was asking whether or not that 6x8 beam would be radiused. And I think you said no, which suggests there are a number of straight sections that would then be more faceted.
So are we asking about the physical beam or the orientation of the beam? So
the physical beam, would it be straight sections between posts, or would it be a rolled beam that would have a continuous radius to it?
And actually, can you zoom in a little bit? Can you zoom a little bit, and just for clarity?
Because this looks like they're rolled.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
The question is this right here? Can everyone see that, Mark?
Yep.
Is that a straight beam just from point A to point B, straight shot, or is it
Well,
shown as curved? Yeah.
That is curved.
But it's shown as actually the whole beam is curving.
Correct.
Okay.
You would be rolling the battens and the beam.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. So, thank you for that clarification. Any other questions? All right, not hearing any. Let's roll into, speaking of rolled beams, let's roll into comments. All right, who would like to start us off?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Lenvick?
Yes, I think the intent of the design and I think my expectation at least is that the 6x8s are radiused, and that the trellis members themselves are radiused. This is what the plan indicates, and that would be very beautiful. And I think that's what we want to see. Otherwise, you've got your brackets are going to be sitting in the middle of the post, but they're going to be stretching out to the edge of the beam. I mean, if you've got radius stuff, you got to have radius stuff. And I think that's what my expectation is, at least. As I go down and look at the brackets, drop down to the detail of the brackets. L9, I think, is his plan, his elevation sheet. And he shows the brackets on one side only. Our comments at the last meeting were that we thought that the brackets on both sides are necessary. And your comment that people are going to be walking there and hitting the bracket, they're going to be walking between, on the right there, you got lower brackets there on both sides that are just as, I guess, potentially dangerous to walk into as the ones on the main cantilever. So I think that my expectation, at least, is that there's a bracket on both sides supporting that 6x8 beam. The other comment I have, I think otherwise it's a great design. I like it. I like it in steel, so on and so forth. I think that the scroll work bracket is too ornate for this contemporary kind of structure. And it needs to be simplified in some way, shape, or form in all of its positions. It just is too much curlicues, so on and so forth now, too much stuff. And I think you come back with it being simplified and it will be very, very acceptable. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Other commissioner comments? If no one else wants to jump in, I'll jump in and if we can go to the actually to your page of studies and precedents and looking around first, and then maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, and then this is going to be specifically for these comments. So can you zoom into the Parisian subway one first, and then we'll kind of scroll left to right, and I think a lot of these will tie to it. So when you look at the Parisian Art Nouveau, probably, and you look at the way in which they're dealing with metal work here, and you see the sort of the bigger members or the larger structure, and then the smaller members are just doing less work and are the sort of the rib cages and the bones in between, and then you have this larger bone structure. There isn't a large discrepancy between the size of the metal work is kind of telling you what its job is, and sort of in a fairly efficient way, and so I think that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, it's curvy and very Art Nouveau-y, and has a lot of complexity throughout its whole structure. But I think that's the main seems to be a great takeaway from this image, which I think is a really good image. And then as you scroll over, the next one, the wrought iron bracket, is sort of wrought iron with wrought iron with wrought iron. It's not the cast metal work or the Art Nouveau. This is the sort of an all wrought iron construction, and it could be done by someone at a forge by hand. And then you get the Cottage Hospital example, and that seems to be much more of sort of larger component parts, but not wrought iron, but sort of those larger pieces, and it doesn't get too fussy with the little stuff. But even the construction method seems like it's a sort of machined or mechanized larger steel member construction. And then you've got the Casa del Herrero, which is obviously like a perfect example of all wrought iron. And then you've got the Cottage Hospital steel pergola, which also sort of ties to the bus stop in that it's a sort of a steel and machine feel and look, with some curves and the cantilevers and those things, but it's really a lot of machine and steel. So I think that was it for your examples, right? So when the only part, this one. Okay, this is a good one to point out as well. This one, I think, the existing site lighting with scrolls, I think it's trying to do both. It's trying to have sort of the smaller wrought iron pieces, and like you're trying to get them both to work as well. The pole, I don't know what size that pole is. It seems like it's a little smaller than some of the members that you have in comparison with the wrought iron that you have. And I would say, but it's also not the most successful. If that pole was a little bit smaller, it would probably be even better, or the wrought iron was a little bit bigger, it would probably be even better. And I think one good example of it is wrought iron done with big, massive pieces is the courthouse tower, where the railing at the top of the tower is absolutely like double or tripled as thick as what a normal railing is, just so that visually it looks right from down below, and sort of exaggerated in terms of all the posts and the members. So all that being sort of all those thoughts being said, if we can now go to the detail that we were looking at with the cantilever, whatever detail that was. So now, kind of thinking those things through, it seems like if you made a little smaller your beams, your 6x8s and the 6x6s, if you sort of slimmed them up a little bit and made them a little bit more still in the steel realm, but slimmed them up a little bit, I think that would be helpful so that they're feeling like a lighter metal because they're not massive things. It's not doing a massive job, I should say. And it's not a telephone pole that's that needs to really go up as high as well. So hopefully you don't have the structural requirements for it to be this big. And then like Commissioner Lendrick was saying, the scroll work seemed really too ornate and too fancy for it, the wrought iron work. And so maybe between those two things, by simplifying the wrought iron and by slimming down a little bit, not too much, but a little bit, the steel posts and beams and rafters or trellis members, then you can kind of come to that the right balance of proportion. And then as well as I think it does need to have support. If you were going to say that the sort of it's being cantilevered from the other side, then it would be expecting some sort of visual strong connection showing a tie or something that it's in tension. So I don't think that that's necessarily the best way to go either. I think that even just having them equal and even up high and not coming down as far could be a great way of giving them some visual support without getting it too cluttered. So those are the things I would be adding to it. I am convinced with this argument for the curving metalwork. If it was in wood, it wouldn't feel very right to have that large piece bent. But in metal, I think you can get away with it. And in a lot of your examples that you've shown have also gotten away with it and has it feels sort of elegant, and the metal feels like it can do that, where the wood, a large wood beam would be very difficult to have it bend like that. Those are my thoughts on it. Any other thoughts before we discuss a motion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Jordan.
I'll keep my comments brief. I like this project very much. I appreciate the discussion of the sizing of the steel members and the discussion about whether they tended towards steel dimensions or wood dimensions. I will say that I think the attention given to the design of finials for the both for the fence and for the trellis do a great deal towards providing a light touch to what could otherwise become a little heavy if they tended, depending on the section. So that there's much to admire from my point of view in the scheme that's presented to us today.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments to add? Okay, so this is before us for design approval. And if that is the feeling of people are feeling that comfortable enough. Oh, actually, sorry, there was one more comment I forgot to make. Could we go to the wooden gate or the detail of it?
13.
And okay, perfect. Yeah, so I would say the one thing that, and maybe I'll turn this into a question because there might be a reason or a different reason for it. But when I look at these brackets, they seem this L bracket makes sense here, for example, because it's connecting two pieces of the frame, and even if it's decorative and even if you're doing it in a different way, that makes a lot of sense visually. I'm questioning why there isn't one here of some sort, or even if you have it come over the top. But why isn't the bracket going in both ways, or connecting the pieces in some way, or just coming from one side going to the other rather than going vertical and staying on it? Was there a particular reason why I couldn't do that, or why you were thinking that you didn't want it to do that?
I'll say it came down to visually having those read as hinges. We kind of wanted that to come across, and as showing them as the L, I don't think they come across as hinge-like, but we'd be very willing to study that. I think that's the refinement that we hope to get into as we progress towards final approval.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, and I think maybe with a study of it, it's a good reason to do it this way, or maybe there's a little better way of doing it. Okay, that was my only other comment. So anyone want to make a motion and yeah, or discuss it any more about whether they think it's ready for design approval? All right. Well, if no one else is going to speak up, it seems to me like it's getting to the point where this is now just the finessing of details. So I'd be comfortable if someone's going to make a motion for design approval with you know, some of these adjustments still to come.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. I'm a little hesitant to make a motion for design approval, but I'm willing to do that because I will structure the motion so it's very specific. I will move for design approval with the understanding that the beams and the trellis members are radiused as shown in plan. 2, that the brackets between the posts and the beams be simplified with be less ornate. 3, that the major cantilever have a bracket on both sides, front and back, and that the architect may choose to make the subsidiary or the minor members less bulky and slender as a result of his further review and design studies. And I believe that's all I need in the motion for a preliminary approval.
Okay, for project design. Project design.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Commissioner Jordan, was that you that was going to second it?
Yes, I second that.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Jordan. Motion by Commissioner Lenvik. All right, and then you'll need to make consistent project compatibility finding as a screen.
I can do that, bring them up.
And Commissioner Lenvik, can you see them on the screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, excellent.
The I guess I'm unmuted, aren't I? The project design as approved in the motion will be consistent with the design guidelines applicable to the location in the city. 2, it's compatible with the architectural character of the adjoining buildings. 3, the size and scale of the trellis structure is appropriate and compatible with its surroundings. 4, there are no adjacent landmarks that it has to be consistent with. 5, the public views of the ocean and mountains are not being interfered with this trellis design. And the project, and 6, the project is not changing the open space or landscaping in its construction of these trellises.
All right, and the seconder of the motion agree with those?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion and a second. Under discussion, any discussion? All right, hearing no discussion, let's go to a roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Was that an abstain? You were muted. You abstained from unmuting as well.
It says if you press and hold the space bar, that will unmute you, but it didn't do it then. Probably because I had gone to a different window. Anyway, I abstained.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
I abstain.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Lenvick,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan. All right, Commissioner Mahan's thumbs up signals and approval for the record, and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. Keep up the good work. All right, so we are, an appeal process. This decision is appealable to City Council within 10 calendar days. All right, so why don't we are gonna be starting item 5, which we are 25 minutes late for right now, but let's, why don't we take a 10-minute break and we will continue. All right. Historic Landmarks Commission meeting for December 22nd, 2021. So we are on to item 5. So 1631 Paterno Road, the continued item for final approval. The Tudor Revival style residence constructed in 1919 is listed on the Historic Resources Inventory as it was found eligible to be designated as a structure of merit. Proposal for 390 square feet of first floor additions to the rear of the residence, convert 822 square feet of crawl space to habitable space in the basement, and 344 square feet of existing habitable space on first floor to create a 2-car garage with a new driveway, replace existing non-conforming uncovered parking space in the front yard with landscaping, replace existing 333 square foot 2-story covered patio in the rear elevation with a new 437 square foot 2-story covered patio, replace existing outdoor stair and balcony with a new balcony and 2 new outdoor stairs, install 2 new air conditioner condensers, re-roof and alterations to landscaping in front and rear yards. Project will abate violations, DIR, etc., and DIR, etc., 2014-2010 by permitting an as-built sink and electrical outlet located at outdoor counter and removing an as-built storage shed, chicken coop, and playhouse located in an interior setback. Final approval is requested. Project requires substantial conformance to plans that received project design approval on November 24, 2021, which is when the project was last reviewed. All right, so welcome. So I think we'll do is we'll read through the meeting minutes from last time, and then if there are any additional notes, Mr. Hamilton, if you want to add, and then we can dive in and let the applicant show us, give their presentation. All right, so if we can, let's see, we had the motion was the project design approval with the following comments. The improvements are positive, and this is an acceptable project. Number two, provide landscaping along the driveway so that it appears less harsh. 3, as required for structure of merit of the Santa Barbara Municipal Code, the exterior alterations are being made primarily for and will substantially advance restoration of the historic resource to its original appearance, and the exterior alterations are consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards. 4, the project compatibility analysis generally have been met as follows. The project's design is consistent with the design guidelines applicable to its location within the city. That's A. B, the design of the project is compatible with desirable architectural qualities and characteristics that are distinctive of Santa Barbara and of the particular neighborhood surrounding the project. It is an existing building, and the improvements bring the rear of the building into consistency with the front of the building. C, the size, mass, bulk, height, and scale of the project are not an issue because they are not significantly changing as a result of this project. D, the design of the project is appropriately sensitive to adjacent landmarks or other nearby designated historic resources. E, the design of the project responds appropriately to establish scenic public vistas. F, the project includes an appropriate amount of open space and landscaping, and the landscape plan is a great improvement. The action was by House, the second was by Edmonds. It was 8-0-0. Manuel was absent. The motion carried. There was a 10-day appeal period announced, and then we accepted the Phase 2 Historic Structure Site Report with the comments to delete the reference to the Phase 2 Historic Structures Report with the Phase 2 Historic Structures and Sites Report. And that was by Uli and Mahan, 8-0-0. All right. So with all that, Mr. Hamilton, is there any additional notes on this project?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have anything other than what's been listed in the agenda already. The project is eligible for final approval today, and I'll turn it over to the applicant.
All right, thank you. And so to Mr. Henson and team, and if you could go walk us through, and with also make sure to, of course, focus on the ones that we, items that we had comments on, and any other additional items that have changed since, or drawings or anything else that's new or changed since the last time we saw it.
Okay, hi, this is Tom Henson, and I believe Jessica Harlan is here too. She's the landscape architect.
She is.
Yep, okay. And Tim Hazeltine, I think, is here in case there are any questions. Not much has changed. We've just added details, and the details we've added are to match existing. I'll let Jessica talk about the landscaping. Do you want to just quickly go through the drawings? I don't think anything's changed on the site plan. I mean, next sheet, please. Next sheet. Nothing's changed here. It's a brick. The terrace will be brick. That will be the finished surface. The driveway will be something like, it has to be concrete to make transportation happy, but we're picturing something like Schlegel stone or stamped, not stamped, but concrete that looks like Santa Barbara sandstone or something historical. Next, please. Nothing's changed on the lower level. You can go to the next. Nothing's changed here. On the south side, you see the iron pergola. We're going very old school. It's all delicate, like wrought iron looking. We wanted to have very little impact, or as little impact as possible on the rear of the structure. And we're modeling it after a pergola in one of Gertrude Jekyll's gardens. Next, please. So this is the front elevation. Upper left is existing and lower left is proposed. We're just taking the wing on the right side that was a small like guest or servant's bedroom and making into a garage, and extending the gable 5 feet or so further to the west to be able to make the city get the 2-car requirement. Down at the lower side in the lower left, there's a picture of Inspiration Arbor. We're just going delicate and something that even looks like it could be detached sometime. Okay, next sheet, please. Yeah, no change from the last time you saw. We're going in off-white for the walls, a brown for the windows. Maybe next slide, please. Interior sections. I don't think this affects you much, but we're doing a steep like Tudor ceiling in the living room. Next slide, please. So details we're just matching existing. So doors, windows, roof edge. We're doing iron railings, like simple iron. You can see the brick pavers on detail 10 will be flat, but the edge it'll be tall, so it looks like they're 4-inch tall bricks at the edge. Maybe probably next slide. On the right is like the box bay to match the elevation, where it'll be either probably a heavy bodied stain on the wood on the box bay, and that's on the rear of the house. The new chimney is matching the existing chimney, stucco with a taper. Next slide, please. The lower right-hand corner is the detail for the pergola. We think like 1.25 pipe is enough, and then the channel would be a 3-inch horizontal channel, and then it would just be bar. Other than that, the 1x2 curved bar calcs out to go from the house to the outside rail, and then flat bars going the other way. So it'll be really light, and we'll have some fun with the knuckles and detailing, but we generally just don't want to attract a lot of attention to it. Just keep it light and simple. And next image, please. And I believe this takes us to Jessica, landscape.
Yeah, so this is our hardscape and lighting plan. The only thing that's changed hardscape wise is along the driveway, you can see we added the planter to give some softness while still accommodating entry into the 2-car garage. Other than that, it's the exact same hardscape plan. We have 2 light fixtures spec'd. We're just using a path light and then a down light out of the trees, and we're speccing a copper finish on them all so they get a nice patina and age and feel more classic. And there's images at the bottom of this page of the fixtures we're proposing in the landscape. We also have a wall light, and that will be a bronze, or it's a brass. So it's a brass finish that still patinas without being the softer copper. We have a fence elevation along the 2 side yards. We're connecting fences to enclose the backyard and just doing a solid wood fence that's in the elevation. You can see it's a 5-foot non-climbable, and that with then a little detailing at the top to add crenellation and a little bit of nice detail that goes more with the architecture. You can go to the next page now. If it loads. This is our irrigation plan. We're using primarily drip irrigation, other than the small lawn area on the right off the lower patio. And that will be a rotary spray. On all proposed trees, we're using root zone irrigation by Hunter to help with their establishment. We have our controller located on the side of the garage, and that's all per the city's specs with a weather station and rain sensor. On to the next page, please. Irrigation details with landscape compliance. You can go to the next page. I doubt that's necessary to talk about. The planting plan has maintained the same plan, other than that driveway we talked about, where we're adding in a little bit of Lomandra along that driveway edge with boxwood to give a softer feel as we drop down into that driveway. And then the only other change is where the stormwater detention basins are. We got those locations and have added plants that meet the civil's requirements. So we have Carex divolsa in the 2 shadier areas that are in the woodland environment, and then Carex flacca in the moonlight garden, which is off the lawn, which is all grays and blues. So trying to fit in with the plant palettes that we have while maintaining the basin, I guess, biology required. But other than that, the plan is exactly the same, other than addressing those comments along the driveway. Yep. That's it.
So the kitchen vegetable garden didn't change? Okay.
No, they wanted to maintain it as designed, as much as I said, I'd already discussed that with them, and
I know.
And based on where the stormwater needed to end up going to deal with the 2 watersheds, it ended up that we needed to put a detention basin in that location, which would have kind of mitigated the kitchen garden effect as well. So yeah, I would have loved that personally.
Okay. No, I was just kidding. So do you have any more to present, or is that your presentation?
No, that's my presentation, just highlighting the changes since you've seen it last and the additional detail for irrigation and lighting.
Okay. All right, well, if that completes your presentation, we'll go to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to comment on this item, click on the raise hand icon, and you can then unmute yourself, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak on this item.
Yes, thank you, Chair Grumbine and Commissioners. At this time, I can see several members of the public in attendance. If you would like to speak on this item, click the raise your hand icon and I can call on you. So I don't see any hands raised, and we also did not receive any written correspondence for this item. So I'll turn it over back to you, Chair Grumbine.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll close public comment and to the commission for questions. Any questions from the commission? All right, well, it's getting more and more festive in here, so it's apparently a good meeting to be at. Okay, if there's no more questions, let's roll into comments. Commissioners, how's everyone feeling?
I'll pipe in.
Yeah, Commissioner Early.
I think the project is making great progress, and I think it's supportable.
Okay, great. Other thoughts on it?
If Commissioner Uli cares to make a motion, I will second it.
What do we have?
There's a
Final approval?
For final approval.
Make a motion that 1631 Paterna Road receive final approval.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second by Vice Chair House. Under discussion, anyone feel otherwise or have any other comments that they want to say about it?
It's a beautiful project.
Yeah, it is a beautiful project, and just as an additional note, I really love the Iron Arbor trellis example they found and how they've integrated it into their project.
Ditto.
All right. So in that case, they're here for final approval. Is there any? No, there's no findings or anything that need to be made. So we've got a motion and a second. If there's no other comments, we'll go to a roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury, Commissioner Drury,
you muted?
Should still be around. Oh, well.
All right, I'll move on to Commissioner Edmonds.
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan, all right, Commissioner Mahan's thumbs up signals an approval for the record. Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Yes, and I did review the project from last time since I was absent.
all right, thank you. And Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
And Commissioner Drury votes aye as well.
All right, perfect, thank you. So the motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, congratulations on your project, and looking forward to it being done. And their appeal.
Thank you, guys.
And this is
Happy holidays.
appealable. Yes, happy holidays. And this is appealable within 10 days to City Council. All right. And all right, have a great Christmas and et cetera.
You too.
Everyone. All right, we are on to our last item of 2021. There's item 6, 1221, Anacapa Street. This is a continued item for in progress review. Proposal to construct a new 500 kilowatt solar photovoltaic system on the upper level of the city-owned Granada Garage, located in EPV, that will also function as a parking canopy. The superstructure will have a maximum height of 46 feet 11 inches and consists of painted high-strength steel columns and beams with galvanized light gauge steel purlins on top to support and attach the solar modules. The project also includes removal of existing rooftop light poles and 13 small olive trees in pots to allow for the new solar photovoltaic canopy. Planning Commission approved a height exception on December 10th, 2020, allowing the project to exceed the standard height limit of 45 feet in the commercial general high density residential priority housing overlay CG zone. And this is a focused in progress review is requested for comments on the solar panel support structure mock-up and solar selection. The project will return for final approval consideration and review of all project elements at a later date. Project was last reviewed October 27, 2021. No final appealable action will be taken at this hearing. All right, so with that, Commissioner Emanuel.
Sorry, I need to leave the meeting. I have a conflict of interest with the owner.
All right, well, in that case, happy 2021 to you.
Yeah, happy holidays.
See you in the new year.
All righty.
Okay. All right, now let's go to the applicant here. And then let's also, if we have minutes from last time, I know this is specifically just a focus in progress review, so we're not going to be reviewing everything, but just if we, in case we do hit one of these things or pieces of these things, or just to refresh everyone's memory, maybe. Okay. So this was a motion for project design approval, and this is September 15th, motion for project design approval and continue indefinitely. Full commission with the following. Yes.
Yeah, just pointing out, these are the most recent minutes should be October 27th, actually.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah, didn't want you to go through all that.
Yeah, that was going to be a long, a long read before.
Thank you.
Good catch, Mr. De Vicente. I'll pull the right minutes up.
Yeah, no problem.
We did have a review today of something where the motion was made by maybe Winnick or made by Lavoie and seconded by Winnick, and that was the last time the minutes were. So
oh, wow.
older motions have been read off today that go quite ways back. All right. So welcome. Well, in the meantime, while we're pulling up those minutes, why don't you all introduce yourselves for the record? And
Happy to do so.
Yeah.
Happy holidays,
All right.
Chair Grumbine and fellow commissioners. Ed De Vicente, DMHA Architecture.
And Merry Christmas to everyone. And name is Henry Lenny. Henry Lenny Design Studio.
Right. Thank you. And then
Feliz Navidad, Henry.
Feliz Navidad. I should have said that to begin with.
Great. And then let's see, there was something. Oh yeah. Then you'll have 15 minutes if you need it to do your presentation. And we are also know that this is a focus in progress review, so we will be focusing on the particular elements that you discuss and want us to give comments on. Are we, Mr. Hamilton, are we getting close to having those comments, or should we kick into the presentation and then come back to the comments at the end after the presentation?
We are ready. Can you see them on the screen?
Oh, great. Okay, perfect. Okay, so this was October 27th, 2021. A recusal to avoid any perceived conflict of interest. Commissioner Emanuel recused himself from the hearing. And then let's put down a motion. Continue indefinitely with the following comments. The Commission thanks the Public Works Department, the design team, as well as Vice Chair House, Commissioner Mahan, and Commissioner Lendwick for their hard work on this project. The Commission recognizes the importance of the project in providing sustainable energy to the city and a need for a solution to allow both EPV guidelines to exist along with the new energy technologies. There was a split straw vote on whether the decorative columns that visually support the 3 locations of the trellis structure are necessary. Applicant shall continue to study how these pieces may play out within budget constraints to gain the support of the full commission. 3, the new sizing and extensions of the trellis on the Anna Pamu Street side are much improved and acceptable. The flattening of the solar panels on the Granada Garage Paseo side of the project is much appreciated and improved design. 4, the next in-progress review, at the next in-progress review, provide a mock-up so the commission can determine if potential screening and panels is needed from the underside of the trellis structure. And show how the light that might be visible from the public view shall be shrouded. 6, the colors shall return to the commission for final approval. Motion was by Mahan, second by Uli, 700. Edmonds and Drury were absent. The motion carried. All right. And then discussion held. The commission determined that a mock-up as requested in the motion would be ideal. However, ultimately concluded that if the mock-up is too burdensome, the applicant may provide us details showing the underside of the color of the solar panel for context, and if possible, a painted beam that can be held up in combination with the panel. All right. And so there it was. So now to you, Mr. DeVicente and Lenny, if you would like to give us your presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Grumbine, fellow commissioners. So yeah, we're doing an in-progress review today. I'll briefly cover what we want to review. They had a site meeting, and Henry will report on that with Commissioner Howes and Commissioner Mahan to look at a color mock-up and the solar panel. And we have a photo of that. Also, new information, we do have in-progress engineering drawings. So I would like to go through some of those with you and talk about, now that we've dug into engineering, look more closely at the parking issue or adding columns at some of the cantilevered corners, so we can give you an update on that as well. And the rest of the items, those are the key ones that we want to cover today. So before we get into those technical kind of things, I'm going to let Henry talk about the mock-up review, and yeah, love to get some input from Commissioner Howes and Mahan as well. I wasn't able to attend, so I can't provide any firsthand information.
Yeah, well, we did meet on the site, and we did have a mini mock-up, which consisted of 2 ladders, a solar panel on top of the ladders, and then the color. Then Steve and Bill, we both ran downstairs on Anapamu Street to see what it looked like. We had 2 options, one lighter one and one darker one. I think we chose the anonymous, which is the darker one. That seemed to work the best. But for some reason, none of us thought about taking photographs for you all. So, but I'm sure that Steve and Bill can describe exactly what we did. We also tried to set up the ladders to be approximately where the whole structure was going to end and begin in terms of all the beams and so on. And then we put both colors, Public Works, put both colors, one first, then the other one, then both of them, and the consensus was that we liked the anonymous color. And so Steve and Bill, if you want to add to this.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Vice Chair Howe.
I will just comment on the placement of the solar panel atop a couple of 8-foot ladders, because the concern was, upon learning that the underside was not black like we originally understood, it was in fact white, and did something need to be done about that? But there are a couple of electrical cables that come out of the underside, so that kind of precluded the possibility of some black adhesive plastic being applied to it. But the realization was that not only was the underside never in sunlight, so it was never a harsh white, but also by the time that entire parking deck is covered by solar panels, there's little in the way of reflected light off the parking deck. So it'll be much darker. So it seemed unnecessary to have to do anything to the underside of the panels. And as Mr. Lenny has said, we chose this color, which was very anonymous.
Well named, well named.
That's
okay, and Commissioner Mahan has been having trouble with the audio today, so I think his comments will be very brief.
Yeah, or it could be a thumbs up again.
Oh yeah, or it could go be a thumbs sideways or thumbs down.
But I must say, you should have seen him running up and down the stairs.
I agree. Steve and I were exhausted, not Bill.
Mr. Chair.
Keeps on going. Yes.
I would just
Mr. Hamilton.
suggest, Commissioner Mahan, if you have any specific comments you'd like read for the record, you can email them to me or Nicole, and we'll read them for you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. That's good. Good point. Good idea. Okay, so with those comments, okay, so then while we continue with your presentation, and if you want to go to certain sheets.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So, Commissioner or Chair Grumbine, thank you, Commissioner House, for your additional comments. We can jump to, I believe we can go to page 9. I'm just going to skip past many of the previous drawings you've seen. And we can take a look at our structural steel framing plan. Okay, so real layouts with real sizes. And so we've got a couple of views here at the lower level. And then the next plan sheet is from up above with the solar panel layout. So what we can see here, we can go back, I'll orient you. So on the left-hand side of the sheet here is the Granada Garage. And to the bottom of the page is Anapamu Street, Anacapa to the right-hand side, and then Victoria towards the north. So just to get us oriented, I know you've seen this layout in multiple rotations, so just want to start with that. Okay, and so you can see to this on the south side there, we've got our first bay where we have our 6x8 purlins. And I've got some details to show there, but I think the important thing to show here is a couple things. The member sizes are proving out. We do have our main members as W18, and then the cross members as W10s and the purlins. So why don't we zoom into, let's go into the configuration of the 3 column cantilever areas of columns. So bottom right hand corner there, we even have some grid lines that we can look at. So in the bottom right-hand corner there near grid D3 and D5, as you can see, we have the cantilevered corner there. And we looked at a couple things. One thing of note is right at D5, we've got an accessible parking stall with an accessible loading and unloading area. So we looked at a couple things. Bringing a column down directly at the end here or to cantilever, and that would eliminate a regular space. We also looked at splicing the end and continuing adding a column in at the very end against the wall, but that would create an issue with the accessible loading, unloading space. So that's what the situation looked at or turned into more closely there. Let's go to the upper left-hand corner. And here similarly, yeah, let's keep going up a little bit more so we can get the corner of the building. So looking at there between grid 2 and A.5, we've got our other cantilever corner. Right about, we can zoom in a little bit closer. What we've got is another accessible stall, this time right underneath the cantilever corner. And similarly, the loading, unloading zone there, just to the middle of the screen to the left. Hopefully everyone can spot that. Yes, thank you. So similarly, we were looking at, well, we can splice again the end of the beam and get a column up against the building, but it's going to have another impact to the accessible stall. So based on this, and then on the upper right-hand corner, the last kind of area along Victoria, where we have another cantilever. Looks like one of our main W18 lines is a little faint there on a grid, but nonetheless, it's there close to this cantilever. So we've got about a 12-foot, 11-inch cantilever there along grid A. And so when we looked at all these, our recommendation, I know the commission was split, is not to add them. We don't want to create the conflicts with the accessible spaces, certainly, either by splicing or dropping them down and losing spaces. I think we're still concerned about any kind of loss of spaces. Now, on this one in particular, on the upper right corner here, we could add one down. There is still some infrastructure there for the new EV chargers, some conduit tacked on against the wall. We think we could potentially make this one work, but again, it seemed a better approach would be an all or nothing. We didn't think it was important enough in this view, which is probably one of the most limited of the whole project as far as visibility. But again, this is for the commission to take into consideration.
And just to confirm what you're saying, you're talking about doing a column there. You're saying that that's the one that.
There we go.
Great. Okay.
Yeah,
just want to make sure.
The third location. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify and just new view. So that was our deliberation with this more detail from the engineers. Certainly looked at solutions to providing it, but again, the conflicts, we don't believe that the conflicts with the parking spaces, in particular accessible ones, are worth it. So let's go to the next page and you can take a look at the kind of the panel layout. So here again, it really proved out from our concept, the layout, really there's nothing of significance to point out of any changes. Let's go to the right-hand corner, kind of the blow up. Here you're starting to see some more detailing in the latias. And then we will go to that S4.1 sheet with some sections. But before we do that, just want to confirm a couple things here in the layout. So yes, this is the area where we have the flat panels. And the 6x8s are going up and down. Now the spacing on these, because of the way they detail with the panels, and you'll see in section, we originally, or last time we were at 48 inches on center. Here we ended up a little tighter because we are using the panel dimensions. We're 39.5 inches from 48. So we're a little tighter with the 6x8. We think that still works. The latias on the south side that overhang towards Anapamu, we've got 5 of those, and they are 4x4s, and they're 12 inches on center. Here we are maintaining the false column there. You can kind of see in the middle to have that rhythm. So here we did add the false column along Anapamu. And really we can just move to the next page to look at the detailing, some of the detailing of this particular piece. Since this is the most visible, we can skip past this. These are the major beam and column connections. Here we go. So the bottom right-hand corner is where you can see how these are starting to fit. So here you can see the solar module length, the 79 inches. We're splitting the difference. We thought the 79 on center was a little too much, so we're at 39.5. And if you look up at the next detail, that's the highlight there, where you can really see the section on how they're kind of coming together. Yeah, so there we've got the 6x8. There's a 1/2 inch gap between the panels and some of the other components and attachments and things. So overall, it's come together really well. I think the main thing we wanted to cover is that, yes, the proof of concept is holding, the beam sizes haven't changed, the overall direction is still there. I did notice in the flat roof, or sorry, the solar panel layout, that they didn't quite pick up the step back section behind the stairs, the flattening those. So I'll work with the team. It looked like that was still sawtooth, but this is the most visible piece. I did want to provide you all with the update, even though obviously it's in progress and we're not quite resolved. Beyond that, the other elements that you had asked for, shielding for lighting and other components, we'll bring that back for final if you all feel like we're far enough along and going in the right direction where you're ready to see it at a final level. Certainly looking forward to the comments from the commission. So before I wrap up, Henry, is there anything additional you wanted to add? Or
nothing additional on mine, yeah.
Okay, great. So thank you, Chair, for the time, and definitely to Commissioner Howes and Mahan for the time to meet out on the site again and take a closer look at the components of things. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so if that completes your presentation, let's go to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to comment on this item, please raise your hand. Click on the raise your hand icon. and then click on the unmute button and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair Garambine and Commissioners. If any member of the public would like to speak on this item, please click the raise hand icon and I will call on you. All right, so at this time, I don't see any raised hands for this item and we did not receive any written correspondence. So I'll turn it over back to you, Chair Garambine.
Well, I guess everyone lost their chance to be the last person to speak in 2021. So, all right. Okay, we'll close public comment and back to the commission for questions. Commission questions. And of course, we're for the most part staying on target here for what they've asked us for specific review of, which is the structure and generally the color and those pieces that have been that we were concerned about last time. The columns as well, the 3 potential columns, and that. So I think those are the main components that we're being asked to weigh in on right now.
I have a couple of questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Landzick, shoot.
Go back to that detail you were on. I think it's your sheet S3.0. It's the framing plan and the enlarged framing plan to the right there. Yeah, I take it is an enlargement of what's to the left a little further on the drawing, right? And the reason I ask is because I don't see the rafter 6x8 coming through on top, basically, of, I guess, the structural W section girder. But it really does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You mean beyond the face of the wall?
No, when you go to the left, Ted, I want to or reduce. Yeah, so right there, the lower. That's it. That's fine. On the last, I don't see a grid line right there, but that last beam and right in there, there's 2 members, one on top of the other. Was that correct?
Can you zoom in a little bit to this one, and let's just point it out, maybe.
Yeah.
So
go over. So there is a beam, a light beam, a 6x8 on top of the bigger beam, right? Right on the last one on the right.
So you're saying like these guys right here are the 6x8s, right?
Yes.
And then you're saying that's on top of.
Go over to the far end. Go over to the far end with your arrow to the right, Anthony, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying this beam here.
No, I don't see it. You're not showing.
Hold on. Let me just do this here. Okay. So you're saying this beam, these beams right here.
Well, keep
those rafters.
Yeah, the one that's all the way in the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over.
At the right end.
At the right end. Yeah, right there. So there is a 6x8 there. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Now go to the enlarged drawing further to the right. You see how that beam is missing right there going through?
I see. It should be a beam like this.
There should be a beam right there, right?
That we would want a beam there, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So there's some pickup work when you do your checking. Yeah. Where do I find on these drawings where you've capped the end of these 6x8s or whatever? Where do I see that note?
You mean the cap these ends right here?
Yes.
Sure. We've got there is an enlarged section there. Let's jump to page 15. And in the bottom left-hand corner should be that detail. There's our section that you've seen. So Yeah, the call out there to the
It's-
right-hand side.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it says capped on ends. Is
Capped
that
on
true
ends,
for the, is that true for the 4x4 tube steel as well?
It should be, yes. We
Yeah,
would want
so-
those capped.
Well, that would be, okay. So those are my questions. I'll have a comment regarding the false columns the 3 false columns, but I'll wait till later on that.
Yeah, okay. Tying to that question, because we're in the same area, can you go and plan that zoomed out view of the framing plan? And I just want to see where the false column is shown, where the proposed false column is shown, yeah, down towards the bottom of that. And then how it relates to parking spaces. Is there the false columns are, okay, I see, they're the halfway spacing. Okay, I just was curious as to why that particular location, because of the beam locations and seeing it. Okay. Any other questions for anyone?
Mr. Chair.
Is that Vice Chair House?
It is.
All right.
The W18s that at their end at Anapamu, is there a cap on the end of those? I kind of thought that they might butt into the column so we wouldn't see the end of them, but it seems like they sit on top of the columns, and so we're seeing the flanges and the web. Is that correct?
You're saying right here.
If we go back to the last detail we were looking at, what page was that? 15 or something? 17? Yeah. Okay, so you see how the W18 sits on top of the column. So what we're seeing at the end of that, is that capped, or is that just the flanges and the web?
I'm just flipping through drawings on my end, Chair Grumbine, Commissioner House, to flip through the details. Yeah, these were pretty fresh for us. So when we can check with that, our intention was that they would butt it to the column, but if we aren't able to do that, then the commission prefers at least to cap that end. Yeah, we'd love to get that comment officially in your comments, because we believe it should be capped.
Thank you.
And so then just so everything's clear, it's this face.
Right.
Okay. And that the preference, or I guess the discussion of what the preference is whether we have this as all one column like this with the beam butting up against it, or if that's not possible, whether we prefer it to be capped or not. Okay, got it. Okay, other questions? If we want, can we go to the plan? I had a question about the of the 3 other locations, potential fake column locations. The bottom right one. Yeah, the bottom. Yeah, if you can go zoom into the bottom right now, where that one is. Yeah. So so looking at this. What you were saying was you could do a column here in some way and catch this, correct? But then you'd lose this parking space is the idea. Or would it cause actual problems for the handicapped parking space?
Well,
No, I was to the applicant.
Mr. Chair, I think the column would be under the W18 at the intersection of a parking space, wouldn't it?
Chair Grumbine, Commissioner Lenvik, it would fall within, it would eliminate one parking space, but we also studied splicing the beam there, picking up the cantilever and getting a column all the way to the wall to the south of that. And that's the one, so there's two solutions we studied, and that one would impact the unloading zone for the acceptable.
You're saying that would impact the loading because of the column that has to sit below it. Okay, but the other option would be lose a parking space, right here somehow, whether it's underneath the W18 like that or whatever. But basically, getting it to work because the W18 Does W18 actually extend this this far, or is it just a drafting thing? Does
No.
W18 actually extend to that
If-
point?
Well, that's something, that's a new thing. If you look at on the next page, you see they've got an 18-inch extension on those, this first round of engineering, and we can decide whether we like that or not.
Is that just to grab extra solar panel, or is that for some other reason?
I
okay,
think,
can you scroll down?
yeah, you can see the comments.
Maybe it
to
is
the
to
left.
grab that. Okay, so maybe that is to grab an extra solar panel, like cantilever out a little bit and grab an extra solar panel. Can you zoom in? Can you zoom in, Mr. Bolton, to the bottom? The bottom right one. Yeah. So it looks like, anyways, that they're trying to
Okay.
get
Yes.
that
this
extra
one-
little row.
What we've got, yeah, if you look at the other four corners, where the 18s, they terminate near column, they overhang 18 inches. In this particular one, it still does. It's just there are solar panels on purlins that are cantilevering out beyond these members.
Yeah, gotcha. So these guys here. Okay. Okay, that answers my question there. So is there any other impact that this would have, putting a column down right here, besides losing one parking space?
No, that's the only impact for that solution at that location.
Okay, gotcha. The other one, I know it hits it is on the handicap space. And then the last one, actually, can we scroll up? This is I think a better plan to do it on. Can we scroll up to the top on this one? Yeah, that top right, yeah, right one. So in this case, it would be putting it right here for the fake column, right? And that's on a curb or something, though, right? It's not on a parking spot or anything.
Correct. It is on a curb. There is some infrastructure underneath. But then again, you can see this is a good shot here with the red column there. Does it then, is kind of the balance with the three that are already there? Do we want to start interspersing some additional ones? So it's kind of
gotcha.
Again, our recommendation
actually,
is no, but again, to the commission for comment.
Can you zoom in a little bit on this? Is this missing? Is this just a drafting thing that's missing the W18 right here, or is it?
I believe it is, because on the previous plan, it's labeled as a W18, but the dashed line is missing.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So then the other aspect of this, and just kind of talking it through and thinking it right now, if we did put a column here, that would actually be only supporting not holding W18. That would be supporting what are they, or what's the other size that you have got the smaller piece?
W10.
Is that right? W10, yeah. So that
we-
would be a column under a W10. Does that happen anywhere else?
Let me see, now that we have the actual plan, that is correct. I looked at the previous plan, it's a W10 at that location.
And is there any other location where a column only holds a W10 and it's not holding a W18?
No.
Okay, so that would. I'm just trying to figure out what what that will look like in terms of resolving things too, because then that would be the only column that would be going to a smaller member as opposed to going up to a large beam of the W18.
Well, the other option is losing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels and shorten up that W10. So it's only cantilevering out, 4 feet as opposed to 8 feet. At least it's getting within the region.
I got you. So you're saying another option would be lose those panels.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay,
good. That makes sense as a discussion. I just want to make sure we're understanding everything, and that I'm understanding it from my end. Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Or any other questions from?
Go to the left then to the third one.
Oh yeah, that's true. Let's do that. And then this one would be catching it here somehow.
Right.
Or maybe the intersection.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So in that case of catching it at the intersection, and actually, can we'll scroll down a little bit more? Because I'm trying to think of what other options there could be. And if that's the handicap right under there, is there an option for pulling it? Because this is the W18, this is the sort of larger one, which you'd want it to carry, and it could cantilever maybe a little bit, or maybe not. Maybe it's better just to stay on the grid.
Well, take that W18 to the building wall. Go up and
yeah, and then
8 feet.
But if you did that, can you still get the thing in questions? Can you still get the what's it called, handicap to work in that configuration, or does that cause a problem?
Chair Grumbine, my understanding is this one would also create a problem for the loading
With
and
accessibility
zone.
Could you get rid of one parking space right like next to the handicap, like somewhere right here, and just scoot the handicap over so that it had the space that it needed to get around and not have a conflict? In other words, can you lose one parking space here and get that handicap to work?
It's something we could look into. It would affect other departments in conversation, but yes, we can certainly ask the question.
Okay. All right. I think that's it for my questions. Any other questions? Actually, well, one more question on your answer. Affect other departments, you mean because parking is losing 2 parking spots, potentially, if these are both, if we're asking the question about the 2 different spots, then parking, who is it that this would also potentially affect? Who might this?
Sure, Chairman. It's the parking division that manages the structure, and our client is, the sustainability, and through Ameresco, the solar provider that was contracted.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Any other questions before we go into comments? Okay. Okay. Well, why don't we start off with comments and discuss this? And I do think that I want to start off by saying thank you for coming to us with this intermittent review, and also on a very specific focused area. So we'll try to stay, generally speaking, focused with these pieces and give you some good feedback. And then as well, we'll, even though we stick to Robert's Rules of Order to keep everything, decision based. This is our last meeting of the year too, so we'll have a little discussion at the end, a little back and forth, so that we make sure that you have had any and all of your concerns heard as well, and that we give good direction. So, all right. So who wants to start us off?
I'm waiting to hear Commissioner Lenvick's comments.
Yeah, I know.
I find it, I think he's doing it right. They got to pick up on a few details like NCAP, so on and so forth. I won't support it with an affirmative vote with those 3 positions, the large cantilevers, which are so unnatural in the EPV area from a standpoint of a trellis structure or whatever. I won't support it ultimately, but I'm only 1 vote, so you can go on without me,
All right. Others want to jump in? Vice Chair House?
Okay, I'll jump in. I've expressed at previous meetings that I don't have that same concern. And once again, I look at this plan, and for instance, where that section marker 1 over S 5.0, that's a broad span between 2 columns there. And then on either side of it are 2 different length spans. So there's nothing regular about the column spacing anyway. So it doesn't really bother me that we have that 12 feet of cantilever up near that section marker 2, or the other locations. I certainly respect Commissioner Lenvick's point of view that this is EPV and we need to do everything possible. But I also think that we have worked a lot with the applicant and solved the major problem, which I've always expressed the elevation on Anapamu is the most crucial. And, you know, from my point of view, for instance, the first one I mentioned by the section marker 1, you can't see that from the street. And I don't know if you'd really, how much of that you'd read from the courthouse tower. And if you were up on the parking deck, parking your car, you're looking at how to get around to find a parking space and you're not really observing the column spacing. So I just don't see the point of it really. So I'm fine with it as presented, and I don't think it's necessary to spend extra dollars on solving a problem that I don't really see as a problem. That's my point of view.
Okay, and that's for the columns, and for the other pieces, the trellis, and how the pieces are coming together. And
well, I think we're on the right track, and we've expressed some comments about end caps and whether a W18 sits on top of a column or dives into it. So that's where I think the attention should be focused.
I totally agree.
Okay. All right. Other thoughts? Anyone else have additional thoughts?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Gordon?
At this stage, I appreciate the presentation. I'm intrigued with the tectonic logic that Mr. Lenvik has pointed out to us. But from my point of view, it is the point of view from street level that is most important. And so I am comfortable moving ahead because my final vote is going to depend on the presentation and how we see it from street level.
Right. Thank you, Commissioner Gordon. Other commissioner thoughts?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Drury.
Yes, I was not at the meeting on the 27th and subsequent hospitalizations and so on. And so I did not review this project. I'm going to abstain, but I'm also going to congratulate the teamwork that has been exhibited in this project. It's been a very difficult project. Oh, good Lord.
And your dog agrees.
So I'm going to say,
dog agrees.
So I'm going to say Merry Christmas to you all and sign off because my dog is making a mess.
All right.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
A woof of affirmation.
Yes.
And hold on one second. Yeah, okay, we're still good on quorum. Okay. Commissioner Edmonds, did you want to say something?
Sort of. You know, I'm still having trouble with the fact that I think that we are in conflict with, and unfortunately, you know, we don't have it up on screen and I don't remember what to call it, but the 6 points that we have to meet. And maybe this is not the meeting and again, like Commissioner Lenvik, I'm only one vote, but because we're so close to historic structures, and I think I'm the only one who believes this, but that's where I'm having a real issue. Again, the Anapamu street view is the most important, but I do think that we're in conflict with, and I can't remember which number it is, but the items that were close to historic structures. So that's my thought. Even though I 100% support going solar and doing everything we can to help.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Other commissioners' thoughts? I know Commissioner Mahan can only give thumbs up or thumbs down. Thoughts right now.
He gave a thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Okay, and then
thumbs up back to you.
I think that is one negative actually about Zoom. Just since I'm going to gripe, my one last gripe of the 2021 HLC is that I really love the fact we can mark things up and actually make sure that we're talking about the same piece and things, but. The one thing is, my view, I can't see everyone at the same time. So that's annoying because I can't actually even see when people are raising their hands or doing things. I have to click back and forth. So maybe I'll figure that out in a different way later. Anyways, my comments would be, I would like to see, I am with Commissioner Lenvik on the tectonic, even though it's not and I would qualify it I would say two things about building things in areas that is not the street view or the most public view. One is when it comes to historic resources, we still care about even the backside in someone's backyard where it's only them seeing it. We still care about it for the sake of the design of the historic resource, and that goes for the EPV just for the sake of design of EPV stuff. So even when people want to use on apartments or other things in the back, even though it's not a public area, they want to use Corten steel or other things that aren't appropriate. It's not that you can hide everything in the back or when it's not being seen or from the most public area, but that we care about the most public areas, in this case, the street view, more than the other views. And so I think that's an appropriate thing. All that being said, you still have a public view of it from both the courthouse and from the actual garage. So I think that there's also even a public experience of it, even up close and personal. Now, I think those are minor views compared to the street view still, but they are still, I think, should be considered. But I think the logic, the tectonic logic that is EPV as well for Spanish colonial revival or Spanish generally revival design does want to have columns holding major beams if at all possible. In this case, I see two of the three are actually much, in my mind, more important and more logical. The other one, I think the top one is one that's actually less important because it's such a smaller piece and it's not even the W18s. So in my mind, that can kind of cheat a little bit, and it's really, if anything can cheat, it can cheat on that. It's not a major cheat like the other two examples are, which really want, I think, to be visually held up, held up because they're these massive W18s. And so I would want that to be, I would be going, I would want to push for that more. And if it means losing 2 parking spaces, and quite frankly, this is not the most heavily parked level and almost is never full. And losing 2 parking spaces at this level seems like it's not a burdensome thing to do at all, or extremely burdensome. So I think in this case, it should win out, and we should continue our tectonic traditions along these lines. Will I still vote against it? Probably not, but at the same time, I do think it's the right thing to do design-wise, so that we continue our tectonic traditions and don't get sloppy with our architecture.
Are tectonic traditions similar to Christmas traditions?
They can be.
Okay.
Depends on how the Christmas tree is structured.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I'll try a motion.
Yeah. All right.
I'll try a motion for an indefinite continuance with the comments that regarding the suggested additional columns, that the important ones are, what would it be, the northwest and the southeast? Would that be the correct directions? Over by the 2 stairwells, I guess. The applicant should explore the possibilities of providing columns at that locations. However, we do not feel one at the north east is necessary. And as far as the progress of the detailing, assure that the tubular steel members have solid caps on them, and that the W18 that terminates at the Anapamu Street elevation is either capped or abuts the rear side of the columns. Was there anything else we need to include in the motion?
How about a reference to your site visit and the color?
Okay.
And or yeah.
The commission
Shaping.
approves of the color named anonymous for all the trellis and steel framework members, and that the underside of the solar panels is acceptable without any additional treatment.
Second.
All right. Oh, sorry. Who was that seconded?
Commander Uli.
Commissioner Uli. Yeah. All right. Santa second. All right. So we have a motion by Vice Chair House and a second by Commissioner Uli. Under discussion. Any discussion about it? Sorry, Mr. Hamilton? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Just, it may help the applicant in the motion to indicate whether the project is ready for final approval at the next hearing or whether another in-progress review would be preferred.
I suppose it could be ready for final approval. I understand that they will return with some more information about the lights and where they might need shielding. And if we're not satisfied with what we see, they just would not get a final approval. So I think it could be agendized for a final.
I agree.
As long as it has all the pieces. Yep. Okay, does the seconder of the motion agree?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Right, let's go to roll call vote.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yes.
Commissioner Edmonds.
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik.
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan.
Is he thumbs up?
Yes.
All right.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up signal and approval. For the record, Commissioner Uli
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Hi. Did you get Commissioner Edmonds in there?
I think so.
I believe so.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay.
All right, so the motion carries. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And thank you to the applicant for all your hard work for this. And you got to end the year with a bang, and yeah, with our final motion and for 2021, and then we'll see you all in 2022.
Have a happy holiday.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays.